Hello.
Hello there. How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm good. Trying to unwind from the day a little bit and a few adventures, but we're good.
Good. It's good to see you.
Yeah, it's good to see you. I don't do these Zoom things very often, so forgive me. Looks okay.
Yeah.
Hmm. So I'm glad I was able to get on a little bit earlier for you.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I don't that's probably the latest one I've ever scheduled. But
Yeah,
I was like, well, why not?
yeah,
My
yeah,
schedule's kind of open. Like I'm gonna be awake then anyway. Why not? Yeah.
yeah. Well, so far my kid is behaving, so we'll see how this goes.
Right on.
Ah. Hmm.
It's always hard for me to serve the first ping pong ball, is how I put it. I always say
Yes.
it's so hard, especially if you get two people in that state together. It's like hard to get the ball moving. But
Yeah, there's a lot to talk about nothing and really nothing to talk about nothing.
it's so adaptable, and from the sage's perspective, it's like I feel like I can't ever serve the first ball. So usually whoever I'm
Yeah.
talking to, I'll whatever arises, and then it'll spark something, and then it'll be an effortless flow for hours, depending on how
Yeah.
long I'm on the call. It's just always funny that there's some hesitation in the energy field to start the conversation. It doesn't know where to begin. Yeah.
It's a little tricky because the dualistic nature of words and knowing where I'm talking to myself. I'm
Yeah.
sitting here talking to myself.
You have to really get the sock puppets going before you
Yeah.
really get lost in the
Yeah.
puppetry of it. Yeah, exactly.
Right. Uh, but it's all that the mind kind of dwells on because it's still active and you
Yeah.
know processing the inputs, and I just sit and watch and just go, wow, it's
Yeah.
the mind show is really something.
It's so interesting how effortless, without hesitation, the body behaves and speaks, and we're just sitting here watching it happen. And I tell people that all the time. I say, I'm not under the impression that I'm Andrew here speaking. I'm just wondering what it's going to say next. I'm just watching, and there's no hesitation. It just flows.
Watching the program monkey do its thing.
Yeah, the brain's doing its job. It's
Yeah.
connecting concepts and process. Yeah, it's like I don't have to worry about my heart beating, my stomach digesting, my lungs breathing, or the brain choosing and speaking, and it's all good. It's all there.
Yeah, the notion that I might control my thoughts or pick what's next is
Yeah,
I mean, the futility of that is pretty self-evident. Once you see it,
yeah, it is
it's like,
now, right?
good lord.
It's impossible to see until it's impossible to miss. Yeah,
Yes, so close and just overlooked.
it's why
um
it's overlooked. I think because it's so close, so
yeah.
simple that it can't be seen by the mind at all. It's not even on the mind's radar, even though it is the radar.
It was not on my radar when it happened, that is for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, it
I mean,
was
I was desperately seeking it since about age 8
yeah,
when I fell out of that state.
yeah. When I was younger, I was very aware, and I felt it's very odd being in this thing and having to eat and go to like it's like remembering a time
All
when
the
all
ape
this
instincts.
physicality was
Yeah.
not necessary. But then you get adapted into it and you kind of go with it. Everybody around me is doing it, so let's pretend this is normal.
Yeah.
And then you kind of get conditioned and programmed into it and not question it until you do, until the
Yeah.
suffering kicks in and you start questioning, like, really, what the heck and why?
Hmm.
And that's what really kind of got me to my moment for sure. And I wasn't seeking, I wasn't in a practice,
Mm.
I was just in the grind, in the
Yeah.
matrix. And it just, things my mind was doing were so out of alignment with what I am
Mm.
that I had a
Yeah.
shearing away of the mind and the witness. I
Right.
had no words for it. I,
Right.
I didn't know. I actually went to my doctor and I'm like, something's wrong.
Yeah.
Did I
I
have a
have
stroke?
depersonalization disorder. I had a stroke.
No,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
this ain't right, but it feels okay. I'm not,
There's a radical shift in the brain, but it's better now. Actually, you know what?
yeah,
Don't fix it. Whatever it is. Yeah.
yeah. I'm not, I just wanted to make sure I didn't have a stroke or something.
I remember when I first started having Kundalini based energetic experiences, I thought, do I have a neurological condition? Like I got to be careful. Am I about to have an aneurysm? And then over time,
Right.
I started realizing, oh shit, this really is energetic. This really is, is a
Yeah.
neurological thing I have to worry about, even though it's rewiring my nerves. And then eventually,
Right.
when liberation occurred, yeah, it makes you wonder, like, because you can tangibly feel the shift in brain activity, the shift in brain chemistry, the shift in, like the day of my awakening, I could feel a very subtle endogenous DMT,
Yeah.
just a little
Yeah.
bit, just a little, not anything, but
Yeah.
just enough where I'm like, oh yeah, yeah, it's definitely part of this. Yep. And like I
Yeah.
knew that all along. Like I was always having similar experiences with Kundalini based stuff. It would do the same thing where it would release DMT and you'd have a 5 to 10 minute experience of samadhi, which is somehow tied to endogenous DMT, somehow tied to the life force energy and tied to the breath and things like that. But I also knew that awakening wasn't as pineal gland heavy as I
Yeah.
thought about it as a seeker. So when it happened, I was actually kind of surprised that there was some DMT production even in that liberation
Yeah.
experience.
I mean, as far as I can tell, and I don't know anything for sure, and I'm not claiming to be an expert on anything, from my experience, this thing seems to be a radio.
Yeah, I agree. Hmm.
It's tuning in
Yeah.
stuff. And we know our senses are very limited. We
Hmm.
know we're seeing a pinhole of the vibrations that are going on around us.
Right.
And so to think that if you play with the radio, you're going to tune in different stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really the key. What
Exactly.
I've just noticed is my mind is the filter
Mhm.
that taints the reality.
Yeah.
It's not that reality is wrong. There's nothing wrong with reality.
Right.
It's simply my filter.
Right.
And the battles within, all of it's within. When
Yeah.
I pretend to struggle with reality, I'm kind of like, yeah, I have fun with it to a certain
Right.
degree.
Right.
Even with the madness in the world today, with this virus
Mhm.
nonsense and government nonsense, it feels very real, and let's get in there and do this. But on a certain level, I'm like, you're Arjuna, you got your bow
Yeah,
out, you're
that's
going to
right.
play your part, but really don't take this too seriously because it's a puppet show.
Yeah, yeah, and in the Bhagavad Gita, God isn't saying, "Oh, don't go to war." He's saying, "No, no, no,
No, play your part.
participate in the duality."
Yeah. But with awareness, and bring consciousness to this and
Right.
understand the person you're looking at, what you're interacting with, is an expression of you.
Yeah.
And they may not all be pretty. They may not all be what we think they
You
should
might not
be.
like them all, even though you unconditionally love
Yes.
them all.
Yeah.
And it's funny how that works, And I always tell people, they say, when it comes to good and bad, it's like, well, what one person calls good, another person calls that exact same thing total opposite. What's that tell you?
Absolutely. Perspective and conditioning. I'm
Yeah.
conditioned this way.
Yeah, I used to do that
Um,
as a seeker. I would walk up to people. I was kind of annoying. I was kind of like Socrates, even as a seeker. I would walk up to people, just really challenge their beliefs, threaten. People hated me for it. But I'd
yeah.
walk up to and I'd be like, "Oh, so what religion are you?" And they tell me, I go,
Mm,
"Oh, okay. What religion are your parents?" Oh, the
Mm,
same one. Oh, that's interesting.
shocking.
And they're like, why? What are you doing? What are you up to? And I'm like,
Yeah.
how deep does this go? I wonder. Didn't like
You
that.
take that down the rabbit hole, and how far you go, you end up where, my God, I don't exist. You
Yes,
know,
exactly. And how do you
the
tell the
me I
mind
thought I
that?
was.
The
Right?
mind is doing everything in its power to maintain that delusion and to reinforce it when it glimpses even. I've
It
noticed this
does.
trend with when seekers have the deeper the glimpse is, the stronger the ego is on the return visit until awakening. And that structure just gets stronger and stronger and stronger until it breaks.
I relate heavily. Yeah. Even with the awareness, whatever it is that I have, when I see my conditioned mind kick in and the triggers happen, I'm watching and I'm like, I don't agree with what my mind's saying. That all of a sudden the body's carried away. And I'm like, I just watched my body and mind operate
Be
against what
hijacked by
I
the ego.
genuinely think is correct. And it's a terrifying in a certain way, but then you're like, wait a minute, if I
Possessed
can
by the
just,
programming. Yeah.
right, but seeing it as the battle, right? Where the enemy
Yeah.
is, you
And
know.
it's all fine, you know. It's like there's so many different reactions to awakening and the glimpses and things, but at the end of the day, it's like now that I know I'm not this character, the character's free to express itself however it wants. Like
Yeah.
if it wants to feed orphans or be a serial murderer, whatever, who cares? Either way is fine. And because of that,
Yeah.
it's like, there's less hesitation when the
Yeah.
sage flips out. There's less
Yes.
hesitation because it's all effortlessly flowing. Even that, there's nothing wrong.
I
Even
noticed the amplitude increase of my expressions, but the
mm,
duration
yeah,
decrease.
right,
I'm not
right,
stuck in it. If I get mad, I get
yeah,
mad, and then I'm like, oh, I
yeah,
was just mad a second ago, and all right, now I'm
right.
not mad.
It's so weird when now when I flip out, if I flip out, it doesn't happen as often,
Yeah.
obviously, but when I do, it's like yeah, it's more intense and it's like it's allowed because it's
Yeah.
allowed. And that's the thing about allowing. The moment you allow something to be a certain way, it dissolves. So if
Yes.
you tell yourself, listen, I'm gonna, not that I get depressed anymore, but even if you tell seeker, like, if you next time you're sad, allow yourself to be sad and suddenly sadness melts away. If you're angry, allow the anger and it'll melt away. If you're in pain, allow the pain, it'll melt away. And it's funny how that
Whatever
works.
arises is what arises,
Yeah. But
right?
you're right though. I'm quick to reset within seconds. Um,
Right.
the
I
average
got triggered.
seeker, yeah,
Yeah.
or the patterns
Right.
did. Wasn't even me, right? But
Yeah. The
there's less of
conditioning.
that, but there are still some hooks there in the energy body, if you will. And I would say the way I usually put it is I would say the average seeker hits the reset button every night when they enter into dreamless sleep.
Mhm.
The sage does that every 5 minutes or so. It's like that
Yeah.
same level of reset and refreshing rests, the return from, because the sage will just space out the emptiness. And then when you return from that, it's like you just took a nap, it could be a few
Not
seconds, a
hanging on
minute.
to anything,
Yeah.
not resisting it, not trying
Yeah.
to fix it, not trying to relive it. The memory looping happens, and it's like, yeah, the mind does that. The mind loops stuff. It's like a noisy neighbor, right? It's there. It's just
I like that.
the less attention I pay it, the better.
Yeah, just let it do its thing and don't
Yeah.
get sucked into it thinking that it's you. And that just happens. It's not like we need to be told to do something or how to da da da. It just happens. It's like
Yeah.
mastery flows here without a master. There's nobody here. Nobody can claim it, but it's zero hesitation, effortless flow state, awakened mind. There's just nobody can be like, oh yeah, it's mine. Yeah, it's me.
You can try, but it's happened after the fact.
Yeah.
Like when
Yeah.
I'm in my meditation and I'm really quiet and watching whatever's going on, you see stimulus
Mhm.
response. They might be a millisecond apart. A
Yeah.
thought happens, the mind analyzes and, you know, tries to define and categorize, and you
Yeah.
just sit there and watch it. And you're like, you're trying to make order out of chaos, and just it's not going to work.
Yeah,
Surrender to that. Surrender to
it's
that.
a
Not
bad guessing
knowing.
machine. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And yeah, it's freeing to say the least. I used to be a thinker. I really like to
Oh, me
grind. I
too.
can go
Yeah.
deep. But then the deeper you go, you realize there's nothing there. Whether I go to metaphysics, physics,
Right, right.
sciences, psychology,
Hmm.
you go down any of those rabbit holes, they end up at the same place. And you're like, there's
Exactly.
nothing there.
That's what's so strange about it is the most hardened material scientist and the most woo-woo theologian agree on the story that something came out of nothing, even though it didn't actually happen.
Right. What we're perceiving,
They're both
right?
still telling the same story mind wants to
They're
tell.
telling the same story. Um, yeah, it's an interesting time because we're starting to see these things kind of coalesce. And
Yeah,
the I really enjoy quantum physics. I
me
really
too.
enjoy
Yeah,
the metaphysics nature of it.
right,
Um, I don't do religion. I don't do belief systems. I'm still untangling those. And
right,
you know,
right.
I grew up in a very conservative Christian
Oh,
environment. You know, Southern California, and I'm very aware that I am a programmed
yes,
persona,
right.
and a lot of things that I just assumed are not. I mean,
Most of them, all of them, really. Yeah,
I mean, it depends on how far you want to go from the relative to the ultimate.
right,
You know,
right, right.
within the relative, I can see that my conditioning is wrong, my thoughts are wrong, my beliefs, the amount of knowledge that I have, I used to think was so great. And I
Mm,
realized there's no way I can know anything. There's
right.
nothing to know.
It's just so funny. People
This
will say, "Well, how do you know that?" No, it was realized here by nobody.
nobody. The mind will never be satisfied, right?
Yeah,
The
exactly.
mind's never
It's
gonna
not
know
of the
that's
nature of
it's
the
gonna
ego
go
mind to ever be satisfied
right.
or to
It
ever
will never
stop.
be
Yeah,
satisfied. And it will never know this because it's secondary to it.
right,
It's a
right.
reflection of, it's like the shadow will never know the sun, right? How is the shadow gonna know the sun? Well, the shadow doesn't exist. You know, how is it going to be in the presence of truth? As soon as you get into ultimate truth, mind kind of scurries off.
And that's what's so funny is that you secretly are the truth that the
Hmm.
mind can't see, detect, or know, and that should tell you directly that you're not the mind, but it doesn't. It's like until it does, right? But yeah, it's not a knowing or an understanding, and like I was the ultimate intellectual as a seeker, and intellectuals tend to um, neglect their body. They tend to like whatever your identity hooks into. Like that was my big thing. Like I'm the
Yeah,
most intelligent guy in the room. That's the one thing I
yeah,
have going for me. And so identity would be really hooked to intellect. So
yeah.
the last two things to go were my identity as a philosopher and an intellectual, and my identity as a musician. The last two big
Mm,
hooks, and
yeah.
uh, and then they fell away. And yeah, this the awakened state does not feel like intelligence, not regular analytical logical intelligence anymore.
It's not a grinding thing. There's no work involved. It's
Yeah,
not a figuring,
effortless,
you know.
already there, already the case. Yeah,
Right.
no process of becoming. Yeah, that's the thing. Most people, when they hear certain words, they get the wrong idea. Like when I use the word sokchen, you
Mm.
know, some people translate that as the great perfection. Or like, oh, you're trying to perfect this thing of cultivate. No, it's what you already are. Like this is the revelation of what you always are. Already whole, complete, perfect, all encompassing. It's not something you achieve one day. No.
You can't add or subtract to what
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
It's
And the mind tries to all day long. It convinces
in
itself it has
futility.
subtracted and added to it. Yeah.
Yeah. I see it. I still see it within me. I still see it in my awareness
Oh, sure.
where
Yeah.
a problem arises and the intellect jumps in, and it's a nice tool,
Hmm.
right? It's
But it's
good to be
only
able
to
to
be
problem
used for
solve,
specific
right?
things.
But then put it away and know I'm
Yeah,
not that,
exactly.
right?
There's
And I know, like, when I go to work, I put on a certain
yeah,
persona,
yeah,
certain clothes, a certain
certain
thing, a certain
hat.
manner of speech. I'm terribly aware that I'm put on a
Yeah,
costume and wearing a persona.
right,
So I
right,
don't become that. I mean, the core of this is an identification problem of
right,
identifying with what we are not.
right.
And then realizing, well, if I'm not that, what is that? And you look at that and there's nothing there. So
Yeah,
you realize all you are, all there is what. And yeah, that the in one of my moments of awareness, I was basically shown that everything we perceive vibrates.
mm,
Taste, touch, sight, sound, whatever, everything we perceive vibrates, is run through the filter and presented. And if it vibrates, it'll change.
mm-hmm,
If it changes, it's ultimately not real. It will dissolve away. It's
mm-hmm.
going to be gone at one point, assuming it's real to begin with, right? It's Maya, but let's call it real. But it will go away. This is temporary, to say the least. But there's something we all have that never changes, never vibrates, never
Never
goes anywhere,
moves. Yeah,
never moves. It's been with me. I remember it when I was a little kid, and I feel the same right now.
right.
It's not Mike, but it sees Mike,
Yes.
and and it sees Mike change and do different stuff and take on personalities and whatever. Um, but it's doesn't vibrate, it doesn't change, it's always there. And in my moment where my mind literally just went away, all that there was that,
Yes.
and it was full and complete, and
Mm.
um so powerful that like you can't unsee that, you know
Yeah.
even as everything came kind of back, it didn't come back completely, and it left a little gap.
Right.
It didn't
And by
get
little gap,
enmeshed.
we mean great distance.
And that gap is all you need, right? That
Yeah.
is
It's so
the
funny because some people
chasm.
call it a lot of people call it the little gap, and I usually say from a great distance.
Yes,
It's so detached that
it
I'm
is.
surprised I
Yeah.
can even speak right now. You know what I mean? It's like it's so cool that I can still function
Yeah.
as if it's not from a great distance, you know. And so
Yes.
it's nice that it can appear as a little gap, but it's also nice. It's so interesting because it does come full circle, and yet
Hmm.
that's one of the things. Like I feel like there's a time and a place or a meta niche of coaching for specific moments in this journey of like the perfect thing to say at a certain point, you know. And I feel like when someone first wakes up via this permanent shift before that non-dual honeymoon ends,
Hmm.
somebody needs to tell them, listen, this is permanent. It's going to
Hmm.
seem like it fades into the background. It's going to seem like the ghost of the character's reactivity selfing trickles back in, but this is permanent. And not that you need to be told that, but it's like some subtle layer of the mind needs to hear that because the non-dual honeymoon phase does end after about a month or whatever it is, and
Yeah.
it does seem like the reactivity comes back a little bit. However, yeah, it can't be unseen,
Cannot be unseen. And
and
I
it's
know
different
where the
than a glimpse in that sense. And
yeah.
it's funny to try to wrap your head around what is that crucial, critical difference between a glimpse, because people could have a month-long glimpse, you know what I
Hmm.
mean, and still come back full force, and
Hmm.
that's not permanent. And yet the sage, the newly awakened sage, has this honeymoon energetic phase
Yes.
that then you become acclimatized to. It doesn't actually fade away. You just get used to it.
Yeah.
And everything comes full circle.
I agree. And the mind does the world. We're here. I have a wife and kid. I got a job. There's a certain amount of engagement with duality, and that
Hmm.
brings that
Yeah.
in. That's why I didn't have a practice. I didn't have a guru. I didn't have any of that. I
Oh, good.
knew to pull away from the world. I took my cable boxes and put them on the curb. I disconnected from media, everything, and I engaged as little as I could with the world,
This is right
just enough
before
to
awakening or
no, right after.
right after? Okay.
Yeah, I was so sensitive. I
Mm.
couldn't be around. Even
Yeah.
I love music. I'm a musician. I play guitar as well.
Hmm.
I couldn't make
Right.
sounds. I didn't want to be around music. But as you start engaging more and you become less sensitive, maybe,
Hmm.
um, I saw the intrusiveness of and the how there's a lot of trying to really program us into this duality. Our culture, our society, our just way of being became so apparently sick, so
Yeah.
apparently ego driven,
Insane, deluded. Yeah.
insane and ludicrous to where it
Like a
was
circus.
exhausting.
Yeah.
I'm around people and I look them in the eye and I see you're suffering and I know why.
Yeah.
Can I,
And I know
you
that they
know,
can't stop doing it to
and
themselves.
I'm
Yeah.
like, can I tell you at least where the problem is? It's not out
Yeah.
there,
They might kill
right?
you if you try. Yeah. Is the history
I
of
mean,
sages in the past, but not that
I
we care, not
lost,
that we're afraid.
yeah,
But
yeah,
yeah, it can.
relationships changed
Sure.
and
Yeah.
social groups changed, and because
Yeah.
it's hard for people to,
Mhm.
if you're not ready, you won't hear it, and it sounds like
Mhm.
gobbledygook anyway, right? Somebody
Yeah, sounds
says,
like it couldn't possibly sound any wronger.
right,
Is the only way I
yeah, I
can
don't
explain it.
exist.
They're like, dude, what are you talking about? This is like insane nonsense. Like that's literally like it literally to the seeking mind, if it's totally stuck and hears the direct clarity of a sage, it literally sounds upside down, backwards, on fire, just like the world appears to them.
Absolutely. And then on the other side of that, everything I did, everything you see is like you're just feeding the ego, creating separation, creating your own suffering. Yeah, this external looking for something to add to this. I mean, I got a long history with it. I'm a recovering alcoholic. I got sober in 1988 before I turned 21. So I've
Oh
been
wow.
sober. I did not do half measures. I was not good at
Yeah, I was always
part
that way.
way.
That's why I
Uh,
resonated with Buddhism, because it was like I had these like extremist bipolar tendencies, and then
hmm,
middle way, it's like, oh, don't be too. I'm like, oh, that's wise for someone like me, especially, So I
yeah,
always resonated with Zen and Buddhism because I had these extremist bipolar tendencies, and because of I kind of knew it was onto something,
yeah,
And I'd say Buddhism probably saved my life multiple times. Not that I would consider myself necessarily a Buddhist now or anything else, but
yeah.
it comes close. And yeah, I was the same way. Like it's easier for me to either fast for 3 days or to
Hmm.
pig out and eat junk food on a binge for 3 days than it is to eat moderately for 3 days. It's like that has
Yeah,
typically been the history of my pattern conditioning anyway, and
yeah.
genetics and things. But I was the same way with alcohol. It was either like I was totally straight edge throughout high school. I was a
Yeah.
straight edge yogi in high school. And I thought, oh, I'll just maintain the homeostasis. Why would anybody ever smoke pot or have a cigarette or a cup of coffee? And then in college, I started had my first cigarette, smoked pot
Hmm.
for the first time, got drunk a bunch of times for the first time, and tried psychedelics and things.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was always that way. So of course, as a seeker, even after college, especially after college, I was kind of like an alcoholic on and off. And now I actually drink now once in a while, and it doesn't. But it's because I'm not trying to self-medicate anymore.
Right.
It's like I used to be like, oh, I'm feeling depressed and separate. I better drink a bunch of alcohols, chain smoke cigarettes, slam black coffee on an empty stomach, smoke a bunch of weed, do anything that will induce the flow state, singer, songwriter, video game, whatever it is,
Or
to
to
to get away
escape the
from the
mind,
self. Yeah,
to escape the
exactly.
mind.
Yeah,
I believe most addictions and most of what drives people is simply the same thing expressed differently of
yeah,
this thing in my head is killing me. And,
yeah. Anything that induces the flow states. People get addicted to
yeah,
sex,
yeah,
athletics,
yeah.
exercise, drugs, alcohol,
Music,
video games,
yeah.
Netflix,
Anything
anything.
to distract themselves from this thing going on in their head and get into a natural state of no thinking. and it seems so obvious.
Now.
But we're all, I mean, that's the human condition of suffering, right? I believe
Yes.
that I am my mind. My mind does this thinking and talking and chattering away, and it says you're this and that means that, and this is that. And all of a sudden I'm unhappy and my chest is tight and I don't feel good.
Yeah.
And I think, okay, you all got to change so that I don't feel this way. What ridiculousness, you know?
Yeah.
Now, anytime my chest is tight, I look at my mind and go, you're believing some nonsense,
You're believing
right?
something you know isn't true, that doesn't resonate with
Nonsense.
you, that they're all in agreement with, but you know better. Yeah, it's so funny because, oh God, my awakening was what, almost 5 years ago now, and I still every day I'm like, yep, I feel more free today than yesterday,
Yeah.
and it's like it keeps going in the sense that like there's still things to have unraveled or have let go, and even little healings of trauma and things like that. Like for example, I had financial trauma
Hmm.
really bad, and
Mm.
my whole life I've never not been in poverty type of thing. So it really messed with me to such an extent that even though upon awakening 90% of all trauma melts away in an instant, that remaining
Hmm.
10% still fucked with me up until like 2 weeks ago. And it wasn't that I got a bunch of money, it was just a another spontaneous mini shift where that
Yeah.
last 10% is no longer here, thank God, because even that,
Hmm.
and now it's gone. And again, it wasn't because circumstances changed, it was just another one of those,
Right.
you know, it felt a lot like falling
Awareness.
in love, and a similar biochemistry and electrical activity as falling in love would. And it happened so deeply I didn't even know that that was still possible after awakening, to have
Right.
any level of passion, or I don't know how you'd put that, but it's like,
Desire. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, like it's so interesting because like I thought that level was dead
Hmm.
permanently because of awakening, and then I was able to experience that, and somehow, yeah, that just spontaneously healed the remaining remnant of my trauma somehow. It
Right.
was beautiful. So it keeps going, the liberating effects of it.
Agreed. And well beyond this physical
Yeah,
vehicle.
yeah.
Uh, Whatever's next is a continuation of that merging back to unity.
Mm,
Um, in this 3D realm, we're feel separated, and as we peel away from that, we're going to go to the next
yeah.
level. In there, there's other challenges and more unity and more detachment, and continues until the dream ends.
And it's
you
it's
know.
all at once. It's a very metaphysically gestalt thing, and
Hmm.
I only know this because of my previous yogic samadhis and things prior to liberation. But you know, it is like an onion in a way. It's like for example, you have an image behind you right now of the Sri Yantra
Hmm.
geometric figure, and there's a big portion of that that really resonates with me because I saw it. And
Hmm.
it's like or the Metatron's cube. It's like
Hmm.
that follows me. If I were to tattoo a symbol on my body right now, the first thought would be Metatron's cube, or the
Absolutely.
Sri Yantra comes second. And they have that diamond shape in common in that core of those. And that I saw that when I was 20. I was the same age as when I woke up. Actually, it was 5 months before liberation. So this was 3 years after my Kundalini awakening, astral samadhi event. And this 5 months before liberation. I was kind of like a Kriya yogi in a lot of ways, and my main aspect that I actually practiced out of that yogic science was Kachari Mudra,
Hmm.
and I've been doing that for years with quite an intense level of bhakti, or the urge to do it spontaneously, and it's quite painful year after year.
That's the tongue.
Yeah,
The tongue. Yeah.
huh? And
I,
it's
I
been
don't know a lot, but I have heard of it.
so. There's stages to it, but I got to a more advanced stage where, and this sounds strange if you've never gone into this physical posture. It sounds wrong or strange, but the tongue can rest above the roof of the mouth
Mm-hmm.
in the nasopharynx cavity. And something just told me to go and do that one day. Like I was walking around my apartment, and like I never was like disciplined to, formally do meditation or yoga. It would just happen spontaneously if the urge struck me, but it was never disciplined willpower type guy. But I was walking around my apartment one day, and I was just feeling more and more blissed out. Like I could tell that like my serotonin levels were spiking, and the
Mm-hmm.
energy, the kundalini was spiking, the bliss was spiking. And something told me, you know, just go sit in formal meditative posture. I was like, it's silly. Why would I meditate? I'm like, all right, whatever. So I go, I sit in full lotus, got the zazen hands going on,
Mm-hmm.
suck in the perineum, suck in the belly, chin to the chest, and then you go into Kachari Mudra. And I got the tongue above the roof of the mouth, and it's resting in that. And next thing I know, I see this shape above me with like an astral vision type vision. And it's kind of like The Sims. If you ever played The Sims, it's got this diamond shape spinning above the
Oh
head
yeah, yeah.
really fast. But what I saw was it was the two-dimensional version of it would be like this,
Mm-hmm.
far more exquisitely detailed and beyond three-dimensional even. But it appeared as a dodecagonal trapezohedron, but essentially just that shape, And it was spinning white light. And the moment I saw this, the mind with zero hesitation went, "Oh, that's me."
That's me. Source. Yeah.
And it's like the energetic signature. It's the astral subtle body, if you will, or you could say it was the eighth chakra, but it really didn't feel like just a chakra. It felt like that's the body of light. That's
Mm-hmm.
the philosopher's stone, the Chintamani, the Merkaba, etc.
Mm-hmm.
And it had this feeling of it can create anything, and what it's creating is this personal experience as
Yeah.
this one. And I saw it spinning so fast, and it was like a clear crystal but shining with such bright white light and spinning so fast that you could almost barely see it because it was so bright and
Mm-hmm.
moving so quickly. But at the very core of it, it had this feeling of like liquid gold snakes swimming through themselves. It was almost
Mm-hmm.
like on a subtle level, the Kundalini had risen up out of the body into this shape somehow.
Mm-hmm.
Because 3 years ago, it had the Kundalini awakening up and beyond the crown, had a somewhat of a two places at once bilocative astral samadhi experience. But, you know, I was never that big into sacred geometry. Like I always wanted to be. I was like, I know sacred geometry is the whole fucking point. I really want to dig into it one day and really like all the way. But it was
Mm-hmm.
like, I'll get to it. But this shape was never important to me. But all of a sudden
Yeah.
after that, I was spontaneously, using graph paper and digital graph
Mm-hmm.
paper and like every possible angle. And then suddenly the Sri Yantra and Metatron's cube are even more important than they were. So it's funny you have both of those behind you, and that I had it was one of the big three experiences for me. Kundalini
Yeah.
awakening at 24, the diamond body of light that I saw 3 years after that, and then
Mm-hmm.
5 months later, enlightenment struck. Obviously there was hundreds of satiries and glimpses and
Sure.
before that, and
Sure.
but those three always stick out
Those are the ones that stand out.
as
Yeah.
like really very, very intensely important to that whole process.
I had some very intense experiences as well, and that's why they're there.
Yeah. And
I
upon
relate.
awakening, your first inclination is like, anything that led up to awakening is bullshit, delusional. I'm going to throw the baby out with the bathwater. But then as time goes on, you realize like there really is a lot to that I can't deny. It's like, here I am,
Yeah.
this extreme non-dualist. However, yes, I can't deny that it happened here, that there was
Yeah.
there's an understanding that there is an energetic signature that is more primary than this body,
Yes.
even though identity ended 5 months after that. It's hard to separate those and negate them or deny them in the name of
Yes.
some fascistic community dogma.
Any dogma's a thought. Any thoughts, not the truth. Right.
Well, and you know, the word dogma backwards is am God.
Yeah. Yeah. Follow the dogma, and there you go. Yeah. My experiences with those symbols is how the non-physical expresses itself into what we call physical.
Yeah.
It's the root. It's
Yeah, that's how I
where
experienced it too.
nothing becomes
Exactly.
something in our experience. And without it, none of this is here. You
Yeah, I
know,
mean,
and
in my that at age 24, that Kundalini awakening astral somebody, I won't go into too much detail on it, but
mm,
what it showed was that the world is composed of the light of infinite attentional awareness.
yes,
So in retrospect now, from the state we're in now talking, we could say something like the world is composed of the movement of awareness that appears as light or electricity or energy. But
right.
really, the ultimate layer is unmoving, potential, unmanifested Shiva, Shiva-Shakti.
We're all Shiva. It's all Shiva.
Yeah, yeah.
And the matter is Kali, and if you treat the matter poorly, it'll let you know. Believe me. Yeah, it is bad. Yeah, it's weird because I grew up in a very conservative Christian environment.
Mm,
That's my indoctrination. But when I had
right.
my moments, symbols came and images came that were very foreign to me. And
Mm,
I literally had to do research to figure out what this was.
yeah.
And like I said, my first experience, I wasn't sure what the heck. I thought there was maybe something physically wrong or whatnot.
Mm,
I got myself checked out, and then I started reading, and all of a sudden, within a short period of time, the concept of non-duality arrives and Advaita arrives,
yeah.
right? And I'm like, oh, that what they're talking about is what I experienced. That's what I felt.
Right, right.
And Swami Sarva Priyananda all of a sudden is showing up in my YouTube feed. And I'm like, okay, let's listen to this guy. And my God, it's like the fact that it's not personal and private to this one, that this has been experienced and known about and thought
Yeah.
about deeply for thousands of years.
Right,
And it's not unique, it's not special, it's
right,
not a
right.
persona thing, but this is the goal. This is the purpose of being here, right? To forget, to remember, right? To experience the forgetting
And in
and to
both cases, the forgetting and the remembering are both to enjoy.
yes, right. The contrast. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
I've experienced no contrast for a period of time, and I could see why mind would make contrast to know
Yeah.
itself, to reflect on itself, to have something to reflect on. Um, if you were infinite potential, you would make an infinite varieties of experience. And then it comes back and coalesces back to the one, and then do it again. And there's nothing gained and nothing lost. It's just experience. And all of a sudden, it made sense. And I'm comfortable in my skin. And I'm like, oh, I've always been uncomfortable in my skin because I'm not my skin. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Now I'm comfortable in my skin.
Right.
I'm not, all right. Thank goodness
Right.
I'm not this mind and I'm not this body. And
Isn't that funny? You can't be
right,
embodied until you know you're not the body. You can't. It's so weird.
right. Then it was like, oh, okay. Let's get a little more comfortable in the
I'm
suit.
so
And
comfortable being human now. And like we said before, at first it's like, why are these people operating on an ape instinct level and viewing
yeah,
that as important? What is going on here? How did I not see what I said? Why are they satisfied with ape instinct activity and I'm not? And now
yeah,
I am. Now I'm like, yeah, the
yeah.
animal.
It's an expression of divinity as long as you know it's an expression of divinity. If you think it's
They're not
real,
too.
then it's heavy.
Yeah,
Life is
exactly.
it's very strange. It's
Exactly.
unnecessarily competitive. And you
Yeah.
start to see
Right.
our
Now you know why.
society and our culture, and you're like, man, I used to really buy into all of that.
Yeah.
And I still have to a certain degree because I got bills to pay, I got a wife and kid, and blah, 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 blah. I got to play home. My instinct was to head to a cave, right?
Mm.
When I first, whatever, I didn't want to
Which
be around
again
anything.
is if you really think about it, it's funny because all that is the caveman instinct. It's like
Hmm.
we go back, but not all the way back. If you go all the way back, there's just formless awareness before
Yeah.
time and space. If you don't go, but the further back, it's like time travel. Like when I saw that shape, and first of all, one of the things I forgot to say earlier that I was trying to say was that Kachari Mudra is called the skywalking seal. In the
Mm.
yogic sciences, one of the ways to use that tool is in order to separate the subtle energetic body from the physical so that it can travel around and come back. And
Yeah.
when I saw that shape, I looked up through it kind of. And if you look up through it, it's spinning counterclockwise. And
Mm.
if you look down through it, it's spinning clockwise. So righty tighty, lefty loosey
Right.
works metaphysically.
I believe that also goes with the right hand rule in physics.
Ah.
There's a certain spin ratio in the atomic structure. It's called the right hand rule, and you can figure out the angle and the spin of things. And all these rules tie together, right? Um, so it's going to be expressed down from the smallest to the largest, as above,
Mm.
so below, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's how
I
the human embryo develops is top down, inside
yep,
out.
top
And
down,
then
inside
that's
out.
how the apparently anyway, according to like Tibetan metaphysics of the yogic sciences, when the body dies, the energy withdraws from the outside in and from down up. It's like it gets sucked
Mm.
back out, But when
Yeah.
I saw that shape, I looked up through it and it looked a lot like a clock spinning backwards.
Mm.
And I had a certain series of thoughts during the Kundalini awakening, and then 3 years later, this experience, and it was something along the lines of, it's like the silver cord is always connecting the crown chakra to what the mind wants to call source. In other words, you and God are always not two, always, never were disconnected, never were separate, and yet as you go up this, it's like you're going back in time. The event,
Yeah.
once you reach it, you're before the Big Bang from the perspective of mind. And
Hmm.
yet in that space, you realize there never can be a Big Bang. I promise there never will be a universe. And yet there seems to be one in this dream of awareness playing itself out. And yeah, that shape looked like it felt like a time machine to me,
Yeah.
And time is interesting. Like I've said this before, it's kind of a side tangent rabbit hole for next 10 seconds, but
Mm.
I view the so-called gray alien phenomenon or the ancient alien phenomenon as time traveling humans.
Just as probable as anything.
It's
Absolutely.
likely,
More
purely
likely.
logically speaking,
Logically speaking,
it
it's
answers every riddle in the conundrum of the
yep.
alien thing. Well, why would they care about us? Because it's us. Well, are we alone in the universe? What a hilarious question. Yes,
Who thinks
you
that?
are alone in the universe. But
Yeah.
it's
In a
so
way,
assumptive in his question. Are we
yeah.
alone in the universe?
There is no we, it's all you.
I just love how assumptive even the so-called hard questions are. Well, who am I? No, you're not a who.
Mm,
Which
yeah.
one of the separate people am I? No.
No. None of them exist.
When will this character awaken? No.
No. That's like the mind can't know. It can't
Yeah.
know this. It
There's no
can't
such thing
understand
as
this.
knowledge, and that's what's realized. And
Right.
that's why I love talking about like Socrates and Jesus, because most people overlook the fact that Socrates was awake and that he was just like
Absolutely he
Jesus,
was.
like so like it's very telling when you see not only did he sleep in the woods, but he'd walk up to people and go, "So, what is virtue?" Because
Yeah.
awakening is amoral; it's beyond good and evil, and the conception of that dualism. And so he'd say, "So, what is virtue?" And then people just short circuit because there's
Yeah.
no way you can't answer it because there's no such thing.
Well, you have to retreat to a belief. This
Yeah,
is good and this is bad. Your mind says this is that, this is that. So it cannot do it without a reference to a belief. right? There's nothing. And if you're anchored in a belief, you're anchored in sand because they're
some kind of
constantly
conditioning.
shifting,
Yeah, exactly.
right?
Yeah,
That's,
or the water in the ocean, like it's always
yeah,
moving, and the sage is surfing the context
yeah,
and is infinitely adaptable to that context. The moment you think it's solid, it's
there's
not gonna
nothing
fit.
solid. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the mind is very tricky and it wants to know.
Very
And
clever is the way I put
very clever.
it.
And
Clever at
honestly,
fucking with you.
it's more fun once you see it for what it is,
Yeah,
or instead of
exactly.
resisting it and fighting it. And I am XYZ and I need to fix these things. You know, I have a psychology background. My mom was a
Me
psychologist and I
too.
know all of that. But once I had this moment and I kind of got through some of the initial phases, I realized psychology is massaging the ego into a
Yeah,
better state of function. Great.
right.
If you're not functional, go get the help, go do what you got to do. But realize you're massaging a persona
And it can
to get it
backfire.
right.
Psychoanalysis,
Yeah.
you go to be psychoanalysis and they say, so tell me again about the real story that happened to you. Tell me the story of
Yes.
the person.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, that is that gonna help me reiterating the story of the person as if it's real and
Reinforcing,
meaningful and relevant?
right? A lot of it
Yeah.
reinforces. A bad
And that's
psychologist
why
will
people can
reinforce
do
it.
decades of psychoanalysis with really profound experts, and they're still suffering at the end. And that's the difference,
Absolutely.
right? Like, there's a big overlap in the seekers that come to a sage to have a talk and those that go to a psychologist because they're trying to end their suffering.
Yes.
But only in one of those cases, like, you, if you had bipolar, you'd want to find a counselor who also had that, or they wouldn't know what the fuck you're talking about. If you've been beaten, you need to
Mhm,
find a counselor that has been beaten, or they're not gonna know what you're
mhm.
talking about. If you, so on and so forth, never trust a skinny chef or a fat
Yep.
dietitian. You
There
know what
you
I
go,
mean?
right?
And so why would you go to an expert to end your suffering who hasn't ended theirs?
Absolutely. And having known psychologists, they're a suffering group of people.
Yeah, that's why they got their degree in psychology. I
Most of
should
them got
know.
into it
I'm
because
one
they
of
were
them.
trying to fix themselves,
Yeah,
right?
that's what I did.
Yeah,
I got a degree in psychology and a degree in philosophy
yeah.
because I was wrestling with mind and suffering.
How, yeah, the human condition drives most of our behavior, right?
Yeah.
On one level or another, that's what it is because you're being a human till you realize you're not a
And
human and you
it,
don't have to do
yeah.
that.
It's just the conditioning of being a person. It's not even the animal body of a human genetically.
Yeah,
It's only the cultural. It's just that the human body has the capacity to be so thoroughly tricked into conditioning, which
it's
is a
very
blessing and a
adaptable.
curse. It's like we get to have computers and iPhones, and the
Yeah,
scientists can manufacture LSD and extract things like that. However,
yeah,
you know, it's a blessing and a curse, this humanity thing. But you'll notice that, like, Christianity is the most popular religion on earth, and what's its symbol? A suffering human,
yeah,
an emblem of the human condition, a suffering human.
yeah. It's, yeah, my relationship with Christianity is complex and it's weird since all of this happened. My relationship with Jesus, with a new understanding of what his teaching was, has
Yes.
grown immensely.
Me too. I was anti-Christian before awakening, and now I
Right.
talk about Jesus all the time.
I'm pro Jesus. I'm pro Christ.
Yeah,
Some of
he
the
was a
rules
non-duality speaker who
he
was murdered
was.
for being a non-duality speaker.
Absolutely. I and my father are one.
Right, exactly. I use
Yeah,
that all the time. And it's so funny because my awakening happened on Father's Day,
there you go.
and it was a
Yeah.
Sunday,
Yeah.
and it was 2017, the year of the rooster,
Hmm.
which is a symbol of awakening, Jesus, and Lucifer all at the same time.
Yeah.
And here I am, this super Buddhist guy, having all these Judeo-Christian samadhis and awakenings, and it's hilarious. It's hilarious.
I was a Christian guy seeing Shiva and Kali,
See,
so
isn't that
I
funny?
had no idea. Yeah.
Like the Kundalini awakening I had, at one point I see this structure and it's like a bridge, and I realize this is what Jacob saw in the Bible. Like, it was like Bugs Bunny goes to heaven. It was
Yeah.
so intensely cliche Judeo-Christian
Yeah.
that I'm like, okay, like how much of this is like my cultural conditioning and how much of this is
Right.
like I've had experiences like take acid or something and I
Mhm.
understand what Jesus went through all of a sudden and like what Jesus is or Buddha or Shiva or Krishna, they're all the same thing. And yeah, it's just so interesting that our cultural conditioning can flavor our mystical experiences too. But I always thought that was hilarious because I was always like extremely anti-Christian, and yet
Mm.
all my most mystical experiences were like surprisingly somehow
Right.
synchronistically tied to that. And yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of truth there, right? I believe he was teaching Advaita.
Oh, of course,
Um,
it's very obvious. Yeah,
very obvious
he probably
now.
even went to India and came back between age 12 and
Absolutely.
30. Yeah.
They have a place where they say he was here, on his path back through. So, um, yeah, and it was weird for me because that is my conditioning. That I'm very obviously conditioned by that. But what was weird as a kid, um, I mean, we went to church twice a week, and I was in the youth group and all of that. And I remember them what they were saying, and then what they were doing, and I'm like,
Mm,
yeah, no.
yeah.
So I hear the words. I like the words. Cool.
Right.
I'm down with the words, but then I see what you're doing. I'm like, okay, there's a problem here.
Yeah.
And then when they start talking about God and heaven and hell forever, I'm like, God made me in his image, but he would put me in hell
Yeah.
for eternity.
Why would it do that to itself? It wondered.
I got a
Yeah.
problem with that, you know?
Of course.
And I asked a lot of questions, and I'm a
God forbid.
I grinded on them, and I'm like, okay, I'm perfect. God's perfect. God knows every thought, every hair in my head. He's with me in every cell, and yet would let me go to hell forever for
Right.
bad
Would
decisions.
give you the option to make the wrong choice to then punish you for not having enough information to make the right choice. How
Didn't
the
make
fuck does that make sense? Yeah,
Doesn't
exactly.
make any sense. So I was in that, and I'd go to like church camps, and they'd have these big callings to go be baptized and do the whole thing. And I mean, I would sit there and I could feel the hive mind, the group mind, the collective mind of that or group
The
all
cult
kind of pull
mind.
together and go. And something inside me would say, do not get up, do not
Yeah.
go. You do not have to do that.
Right.
And I would sit there going, something doesn't jive, right?
Mm.
I
On a gut
and
instinct level.
never could do it. Never could take communion, never could get baptized. I was in it all the time,
Yeah.
surrounded by everybody in my family, everybody I knew, everybody around. And I believe there's something there. There's something really good here. There's something really true here. But all the stuff you guys put on it and all the other
Right.
things, the fear and the separation, the
Exactly.
judgment, I'm
And
not
it's
down
so
with it.
sad, specifically in Christianity's case, specifically Catholicism, because once you see this, you realize that the message of Jesus was flipped utterly upside down.
Backwards. In one
Totally.
phrase, they did it
Totally.
in one phrase. He said, uh, they changed him from a son of God to the son
Mm,
of God. If you're a son of God, there's we can all
we
be
all are.
a
Yeah,
son of God.
exactly.
If it's the separate, unique, and special and on a pedestal, then you will never attain it.
Right.
And you know, you're just a sinner from the go,
Yeah.
right? I mean,
And
what
that's the
who
thing. It's the exact opposite. So
opposite?
you hear a non-duality speaker or Jesus 2,000 years ago or Buddha 2,500 years ago. They're all saying the same shit. And Buddhism got distorted too, but in a far more subtle manner. But with
Yeah,
Christianity, it's just fucking brutal what they did to it. You have
brutal.
Jesus, the non-duality speaker,
Yeah,
saying the Father and I am one. There's no reason to ever feel guilt, shame, embarrassment ever again. And
yeah,
so what's the Catholic Church do? You need to feel guilty, ashamed,
yeah.
embarrassed.
Pray to
You,
this statue to get to
yeah.
God. You're like, what? I got to do what?
Jesus was
Yeah,
hanging out with hookers and
yeah.
you know
Tax collectors and drunks
oh,
and
yeah,
thieves and
and
the
yet they're not
dregs.
allowed in our church. And if we
Yeah,
see you hanging out with those people, it's bad news. Well, isn't that what Jesus did? What do you mean? It's funny how that works. Everything he said, they flipped upside down. And
So
he was not
close and
talking
so
about
far.
sin or redemption. He was talking about illusion and enlightenment.
Exactly.
And if you read the Nag Hammadi level of the Gnostic Gospels, etc.,
Hmm.
you realize this is all upside down. So
Gospel of Thomas is amazing.
exactly, yeah,
And the Gnostics were removed. You tell people that the Bible was edited, hundreds of years later at the Council of Nicaea and other councils. And
yeah.
you know what man does. If you're aware, you know what
For
men do
thousands of
for
years,
thousands.
come on,
And the same power structure that was doing it then
right?
is the same power structure
and
that's
and
doing
they
stuff now.
consolidated, right? Like the Roman
Absolutely.
emperor adopted Christianity so they could both share each other's power. Okay, the Holy Roman Empire. It's like, okay, you're just consolidating power because you're both chicken shit that you're gonna have to compete. You don't want to compete, so you pull
Yeah,
your villainous resources together to maintain dominance and power. It's so shady.
it's so
So
shady.
it's so funny how that works, though. The vast majority, the state and the masses, all agreed. Yes, we should kill Socrates. Yes, we should kill Jesus. Yes, we should. Anyone that speaks up
The
too
truth tellers.
clearly, anyone that's
Yeah.
too bold, too clear, too direct, kill him immediately, quick.
Well, it's a threat because if people wake up, how do you tell divinity to pay your taxes?
Right.
Right? How do you use fear and intimidation and social
Exactly.
controls to somebody that's
Exactly.
like, I'm not this and
And
there's
that
nothing
was
you can
the
do to me,
exactly right. We talk about like we could say like Judas and Jesus had a similar level of enlightenment going on, that they were close friends, etc. Another part of the story I like, and this is somewhat fictional, but it's saying what we're trying to express here, so I'll tell it briefly. But there's a play called Lazarus Laughed,
Hmm.
and at one point in the play, it explains, Jesus resurrected Lazarus from beyond death, and now Lazarus knows the secrets beyond life and death as well, just like the sage would.
Mhm.
And so the emperor catches news of this, and Lazarus is still alive, and he thinks, okay, well, and so the Roman emperor corners Lazarus out in a public square somewhere, surrounded by guards. They all draw their swords, and he goes, "Listen, I'm gonna make this quick. You know exactly who the fuck I am. You know exactly what the fuck I'm capable of, don't you?" And he goes, "Yeah." And he goes, "Okay, you're gonna tell me the secrets beyond life and death, or you know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna keep you in a prison year after year. I'm gonna torture you slowly, then I'm gonna kill you. Now, tell me the secrets beyond life." And Lazarus just laughs in his face and walks away.
That's the only appropriate response to that. Yeah. That reminds me of the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, verse 20. You know, the soul is neither born nor can die, cannot be slain, does not kill.
Yeah.
It's whole and complete from the beginning. So there's just like he told Arjuna, you're not killing your relatives.
Right. It's just
You're
a
playing a
game.
role and you're playing the
Yeah.
game.
It's a play.
It's our identification and belief in it that makes it terribly uncomfortable.
Right. And
You
the
know,
way I
and
usually put it is I say, if you're playing a post-apocalyptic war-based video game and
mhm.
you thought it was real,
Ah,
you'd
oh
be
God,
shitting
that'd be
your pants,
terrifying.
screaming, having a
Yeah,
heart. And yet, the moment you know it's a video game, like, yeah, it's my favorite fucking game. Where's the next
yeah.
one? Like
Fallout 4 was great.
never in your life, yeah, exactly. Never in your life have you purchased a game where it's just unending paradise at all
Oh,
times. No conflict, no war, no violence,
yeah,
no starting from the bottom, work your way up. None of that.
yeah.
You just start off with everything, all end game, everything's done, everything's
God mode
paradise.
from the beginning, and
No one's ever sold that game. No one's ever wrote that game. No one
yeah,
even ever thought of that game until I put it into that thought experiment for a
yeah,
reason. It's like in the Matrix
yeah,
when they capture Morpheus and Agent Smith says, the first version of the Matrix was a fucking paradise, and your mind
yeah.
rejected it as being real.
Couldn't
Yeah.
be possible, or you'd be bored to death. This
Yeah.
can't be true. This isn't how the thing works. Yeah, it's interesting how we need resistance to learn that we don't need to resist, right?
Yeah.
You need that push, that feeling of, force being put on us and how we react to that and realize I don't need to fight all that, right? One of the biggest things I want is I don't need to fight anything. I don't need to fight. I
That's
don't
what's
need
funny
to.
about it, is like from the perspective of God, it's like I get to experience limitation. I get to
Right.
experience birth and death. I get to
Yeah.
experience conflict, love, hate, because
Yeah.
how else could you experience that without that delusion that you're separate?
It's no fun in God
It's
mode.
like a
I
magic
mean,
trick.
yeah, it is.
People say, well, so I'm just God lying to itself, being a deceitful no, it's like a magician. Like the magician
Mhm.
is lying too, but for a more entertainment based, thrill based perspective,
Yeah.
not to pull one over on you to hurt you, but to have a show.
Give you a little spice, give a little
Yeah,
something. Yeah,
a
like
little
I said
danger.
before, it's
Yeah,
contrast. The lack of
yeah,
contrast and lack of reflection is why you would make light. Why would there
literally.
be a need for light? I want to reflect. I want to illuminate,
Yeah,
everything's light, everything's information
yeah,
condensed and vibrating. So this is all that, you know? Yeah, and that's like you said about the Metatron cube, that's how light becomes this and how we
literally.
experience duality. There's no duality without that,
Right.
right? There's no formation to give definition and contrast between this and that, even though they're both made of the same thing. It's the same
Exactly. It's
thing.
the Shiva-Shakti thing. It makes it so obvious. That's the main thing
Yes.
that I always come back to on a cosmic level, is like the juxtaposed salient contrast of unmoving aware emptiness, and then it's let there be light. Well, what is it? Movement,
Movement.
penetrating the void. So that you
Mm.
have the emptiness is the mother of all things. You have this diamond, pristine, untouched virgin mother, Shiva.
Mm.
And you always see the gender flip in this too. If you
Yeah.
talk about it one way or another, so the unmoving one, oh, that's the male aspect. That's Shiva. It is passive, which is a kind of a feminine quality. And yet, in Judeo-Christian experience, it says, "Let there be light," and that's like Lucifer, the firstborn. That's the
Mm.
piercing, the penetrating
Yeah.
energy. The
Yeah.
line, the straight line. If
Yeah.
you're looking at it in a sacred geometrical perspective,
Hmm.
but it's movement. What's faster than light? Well, nothing.
Well,
Movement itself. Well,
I
theoretically, we can.
theoretically, I believe we're going to
Axion
get
beams and shit.
past that.
Yeah.
Well,
Time
quantum
travel.
non-locality, there is no space,
Yeah.
so
Light is just an
quantum,
effect on a physics level. It's simply an effect of the
absolutely.
rippling of gravity in the fabric of space-time, unbeknownst to current science now.
I agree.
And on a physics rabbit hole dualistic mind level,
Mhm.
since we're nerding out on that, I would
Yeah.
say that I, from the way I view it, is I've never heard anyone say this before, but my whole thing is about time travel and light. But in physics, it says things like, from the perspective of the photon, time is frozen forever. Now, if that's true, and it's also true that the photon travels from the sun to my retina in 8 minutes, then how did it move? In other words,
Mhm.
logically speaking, I would suggest that perhaps a photon is actually moving backwards through time.
I agree. I believe it's an induction. We have this concept that there is a pellet, atom, a photon is a little cube of something, and it's being
Particulated
pushed,
packet.
a
Yeah.
pack, a particle, and it's
Yeah.
going from here and it's going over there.
It's not it at all.
It's not it at all. It's an induction within the void. The
Right.
void is illuminating from its own induction. It is electrons, you know. I've had an experience where it was shown to me that there's not electrons,
Right.
there's a one electron.
Oh yeah, the superposition of the one electron. Yeah, I have
It's
heard that
coding
before.
everything.
I have
And
heard
that's
that
where the
before.
intelligence, that's why no two
One time
atoms.
traveling non-local electron.
Time travel,
Yeah.
sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and that's why like atoms don't actually touch each
Tunneling,
other. They
tingling.
don't. They're
Right.
encased in
Ever.
a field that doesn't allow them to interact.
The only
If
thing
they,
that's touching is the nothing.
the nothing,
All of the nothing everywhere is unseparatedly
touching,
touching. None of the matter
unseparated.
is touching. It's separated
Right.
by nothing.
And if you somehow force the matter to touch, what
Yeah.
happens? Thermonuclear explosion, right? There's so
Yeah.
much power in the atom that if you break it apart or destabilize it and turn one into two, you get a thermonuclear
And
explosion.
there's the charge of the void itself, the pregnant
Yep,
void, the dark energy they're looking for is an attribute of so-called empty space. That's why
absolutely.
they can't find it. It's an attribute of so-called empty space.
Yeah, yeah. And it's infinite potential,
Yeah.
infinitely everywhere.
They even estimated that and this is back in Tesla's time even, because Tesla talked about this. And he was talking about
Absolutely.
drawing this 0 point energy from the void. And one of the scientists at the time, they said 1 cubic meter of empty space has enough energy in it to boil all the oceans of the earth.
Absolutely. Right. Well, I agree. And what's weird is what runs our world literally is AC motors
Yeah,
generating, quote
right.
unquote, generating electricity. You're not generating anything. You're producing a condition where the 0 point energy can bleed forth and
Right.
bring us that energy.
You know what's crazy about the alternating current motor is that
Mm.
Tesla invented it in his mind in its
Saw it.
entirety
Yes.
before they even started building it. So in other words, I just talked about this today. It's funny you brought that up because he 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 looked at it in his mind, put it together in his mind. He turned
Mhm.
it on in his mind and it worked in his mind. And he said,
Yeah.
"Okay, it's going to work.
We
Let's
can build
build
it
it." And
now.
they were like, "Well, how? Well, you didn't even sketch it out yet." He's like, "No, no, no, no. I
Yeah.
know it works. They built it. It worked." And it's like, "How
Yeah.
the fuck?"
And that's divinity,
I was like, "Wow."
right? That's divinity
Yeah, I
showing
mean,
how you
you can
pull
see all the
in.
synchronicities of it, right? He was
Yeah.
born during a lightning storm.
Yeah.
The way I always
Yeah.
put it, I say Tesla meditated on electricity and Einstein meditated on light.
Yeah.
But what are the most common ways of expressing that which moves quicker than anything? Lightning and light.
Mm. Yeah.
Shiva-Shakti. It all
Yeah.
comes back to that understanding that there's an inseparability of Shiva and Shakti.
Absolutely. Yeah. The form and the formless,
Yeah, they're precisely identical. Yeah.
precisely identical. Yeah. It's funny, whatever rabbit hole I go down, it always now
Yeah.
ties back. Like
Exactly.
anything can take me back to
Exactly.
this, right? I
Exactly.
don't really watch movies anymore, but if I do, it's like, oh my
There it
God,
is
The Wizard
again.
of Oz
Yeah.
is a story of
Yeah.
your ego, you
One of the
know?
best ones, even.
One of
Yeah.
the best ones. It's like all these old things, and you go back through and it's like it's everywhere.
Wizard of Oz, Fight Club, The Matrix,
Yeah.
those are all really big. Even
Yeah.
Harry Potter. I've had the thought before that Harry Potter is popular because it's the nostalgia of the lingering memory of the astral. In other
Would
words,
believe that.
you
Yeah.
remember what it was like when you could just change anything and everything was magic. And
Right.
now that we're in this, it's like we consciously have amnesia, but subconsciously part of us has this nostalgia for the astral that bleeds through in things like Harry Potter being super popular
Right.
all over the earth.
Right. I felt that when I was young, when I was little, like this thing feels
Yeah,
so
yeah,
weird. Like,
right,
like a
right,
residual memory of before this body
yeah,
not being in a body and
right,
things being, you
right.
think it happens and
And you kind of
there's
those types of thoughts get amplified on like psychedelics, for example,
absolutely. Yeah.
and like you'll really become acutely aware of like the
Yeah.
weirdness and it's the weirdest part about it is that it can seem alien to be a person.
Hmm.
If everything that existed and the only reason for any level of the qualia were simply that there was a material universe that evolved and then there'd be no reason for half the shit I've experienced. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there'd be absolutely zero reason for that to be involved in the evolutionary wiring or mechanisms at all. Like, why would you ever feel out of place being a human being if you were, in fact, a human being?
Yeah.
Or why would I even experienced a non human emotion once during a bad acid trip about a
Mm.
year before our liberation. and I called it Lucifer's heartbreak. It's like the darkest possible glimpse of the innate alone emptiness from the worst possible angle while still in the unawakened state. And so it was the most hellish. It was like a million heartbreaks, but from the perspective of the lonely God type of thing, you know?
Yeah.
And there's no human reason to ever have to be able to feel that.
To get that frame of reference even.
Yeah.
Right?
There's zero why would that ever
Yeah.
help the monkey find oranges and fuck? It wouldn't.
Right. Wouldn't.
Like,
Right?
it makes no sense. Half the shit I've experienced, because I always, every step of the way, throughout the entire thing, I was overly self-aware of every little aspect and every little perspective. So at all times, I'd be like, okay, like, yeah, I'm a full-blown mystic, but like, what would the full-blown materialist do to debunk this?
Yeah.
Every step of the way.
Mhm.
I tried to, all I wanted to know what is the case, no matter how horrific it is or not, no matter
The
how
truth.
wonderful or horrific. Yeah, I just want to know the truth, and
Truth.
I'm courageous enough that, listen, whatever it really is, I really do want to know.
Yeah.
And so I would go into it with the ultimate mystic, but also the ultimate skeptic at the same time.
Yep.
And the skeptic loses in the end, you know, or wins, depends on how you look at it. You know, Descartes was a skeptic, and people always, oh well, you know,
I think
think
Descartes got
therefore
it
I
backwards,
am, and
but
it's like,
yeah.
well, Eckhart didn't. He didn't. Descartes didn't take that final step. He doubted
Yes.
everything except for. Well, then I conclude that I'm a thinking thing. No.
No.
You should have kept
I
doubting and taken
am.
that final step. Yeah.
I am, and thinking happens. I am as aware of thinking, but because I'm thinking, I can stop thinking and still be I am.
Yeah.
Right? To me, it was a mistake, and quite honestly, the way that the Western world interpreted Descartes, I think, set us back a long ways, because it
Makes
says
sense.
I'm a thinking thing. This is what I am. Now I'm my thoughts. Right? It's a trap. Right? Instead of witnessing, going, I witness my thoughts, and I am.
And it's a deconstructing of epistemic foundationalism. And if you're tearing down the
Absolutely.
foundation, trying to get to the ground of being, then actually fucking get there. Don't stop at the foundational level. Oh,
Don't
concrete basement. That's all there is. No.
No. Keep drilling.
going. You haven't hit
Keep
pay
going.
dirt yet. Yeah.
Right. And to a certain degree, I think that that's by design.
Oh,
I think
sure.
that there are people that know the truth,
Yeah.
and they know that there's power in ignorance.
Right. And you see that
If
with
you,
I always think about Alexander the Great when he finally conquered everything and set up Alexandria, and they had this grandiose library and all these
yeah,
intellectuals. There were still things only he knew.
yeah,
Only him.
yeah, yeah.
And he knew that, and everyone knew that, and they knew why. You know, it's like you see that with the government. Obviously, they have higher level technology than they want to give us, things like that. It's all profit based. If you like, that's why we still have the fucking Edison light bulb 100
Yeah.
years later. The little thing it screws into hasn't changed in a century.
Yeah.
We've had free energy that whole time.
We've had
We're
energy,
still
free
burning
energy.
oil. We're still burning natural gas. Because
Yeah.
you can sell it, because it's not just free.
You can put a meter on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what Edison said. If you can't put a meter on it, you better not make it. Right? If you can't charge for it and quantify it and meter it out, you cannot turn it into a product.
Or the way I like to put it poetically is, I say, within this dream, there's an abundance of perceived lack.
Yes. An abundance of perceived lack is very true. Yeah. It's what egos do, right?
It projects a sense of lack and incompleteness and not rightness.
Right. Yeah. And our society caters to that, to
built on
envy and judgment, and they have that and I don't have that. If I had that, then I would be.
And the people that do have that thing, no, that's not the
miserable.
Case. The richest people you've ever met were not smiling.
No.
They were on the verge of killing themselves, the verge of a nervous breakdown, the verge of flipping out for a reason. You know, they knew very well what level of happiness you can purchase or not.
Yeah.
It's not that
Absolutely.
much. That's why
I
they're
grew up
upset.
around people with a lot of money,
Oh,
and
fucking
they're
miserable.
miserable, miserable. And I always think back, and when I got sober, and thinking about getting sober back then, I something that really triggered me was the Rolling Stones song "I Can't Get No Satisfaction."
Mm.
And the words would just bounce around in my head. I'm like, this guy's got all the fame, all the money, all the girls, all the drugs, all the whatever, all the whatever, pick it, right? And he's saying there, I got it all and I can't get any
That's why he
satisfaction.
wrote a song about it, because it's
And
that important
something
to him.
inside of me is
Yeah,
like, that's it. There's the
exactly.
inside that goofy little song is the
Right.
answer to the human condition,
Truly. Yeah.
right? It truly is.
And like I
And
think Jim Carrey said it too. He said, "I wish everybody could become rich and famous,
yeah,
because then they'd realize much sooner that's not it.
that's not it.
You still
You
have
know,
that feeling. It only awakening can provide. And awakening
yeah,
isn't of the world, right? Jesus said, I'm in the world, but not of it. Well, what he's talking about is the same thing, right? Like awakening is the only human experience that isn't from something in or of the world.
yes,
And
right.
therefore, it's the only thing that can satisfy. Because there's nothing in or of the world that can.
It, absolutely. And it's the void trying to fill the void instead of just going, the
Yeah.
void is already full. There's
Yeah.
nothing to do.
That's
There's
what's so
nothing to do.
paradoxical about it is
Right.
everything about awakening is so paradoxical to the mind. It's hilarious because it's like the seeker feels empty but hasn't realized emptiness. The
Right.
sage realizes emptiness and somehow that helps them feel full permanently.
Think,
What?
yeah. It's complete. It doesn't need anything to be added to it.
Yeah.
So what is it lacking? What am I seeking? What am I something out there is going to be added to here and change this, and then I'm going
It's
to
it's
be
another one of
okay?
those things with Sogchen, right? The word Sogchen,
Yeah.
the great perfection, like I talked about, it can be called the great completion, which again, the seeker
Mm.
goes, oh, okay, this is the end state. You got to
Yeah.
complete this. No,
And
it's
what
what you
comes after
are.
that?
You
What comes
are
after that?
complete. Yeah, exactly. Then what? No. I used to joke around with people. I would fuck with people that were like really advanced Vajrayana practitioners. I would act like some delusional seeker that was having mind blowing experiences.
Mm.
All right, yeah, I became the ball of light. But then what do I do? Now what?
But then what?
They're like, wait,
Yeah.
what?
Yeah.
Yeah. I dematerialized into a ball of light. Like the Avadut. Now what?
Now,
Like what?
uh, that's so funny. Yeah. It's like, what am I going to get out of
I
this?
got to the ball of light thing, but
Right?
then what do I do with it?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
But that's the end goal. Yeah, I got that. But now what?
Yeah. Now what?
What?
I got that down. What's next?
And
Right?
it's funny too because I kind of did have that experience in a way. Not that you become something, but you
Yeah.
realize like that shape I saw, right?
Hmm.
That sounds like something that would be way after awakening or way after stream entry. It sounds like, and yet it happened 5 months prior to it, and yet I saw it as a time traveling thing in that moment too. And yeah, it's just very strange because
Our
the way
mind
I,
tries to put this linearity to things that should
yeah,
happen in this
exactly,
sequence, and you're
exactly,
like, that,
and it's not
yeah,
how it is at all. And the way I explain the feeling of that though, that shape I saw, is it's like just the same way that I have a hand and a foot and a head all at the same time.
hmm,
Well, it's like that, right?
yeah,
It's like I'm that too right now on that
yeah,
layer and on this one right now. In the same way
yeah,
that my foot is on a certain level, my hand is on a certain level, and my head is on a certain level. Yet they're all working in unison to have this experience, and that's what it's like. It's what it is. It's
yeah,
not, and it sounds so dualistic. So it's so funny to hear
yeah,
a so-called non-duality speaker talking about these yogic experiences of the energy body and the physical body and the seeming separation of the two, and it's
yeah.
just hilarious to me how it probably sounds so paradoxical to the mind, and it's not my job, it's not my it's not my role to rectify all seeming contradictions. It's my role to report back.
Right. They're all aspects, right? They're all
Yeah,
aspects of the
yeah,
one,
right.
and thank God, right? Thank God there's this apparent multiplicity,
Right? Yeah.
because the flip side of that is nothing,
Right.
right?
Exactly. That's why I tell people, I
And
say you'd rather be stabbed to death brutally in a dark alleyway rather than nothing, because then at least somebody's there with you
yeah,
in that moment, in that
or the
experience.
old adage, it's better to love and lost than to never loved at
Yeah.
all, right? It's better
Right.
to have experienced something, even if
Right.
you got beat up and hurt,
Right.
but it gave you that. And when you're hurting, I noticed right at the end of my suffering, not that I don't, suffer now and then, but it was so powerful and so strong. It was almost a sweet,
Mm.
tangible suffering, like so pure
Yeah.
and so complete, that there's a certain intoxication with it, almost a
Right.
certain power in it.
Right.
And then when it was gone instantly, the contrast between that and then no weight and no thought and no suffering was so stark. And then when it comes back, you're like, ah, I saw it. I saw it. I got
Yeah.
it. I saw that. And
And I know why it comes back. It's like when it first happened to me, it was about maybe like a week after liberation occurred. I was outside having a cigarette, and I thought, I don't really need to keep doing these, and I don't really need to quit.
hmm,
What will I do? I guess it'll happen on its own. And I'm like, it's interesting though that it's still having a cigarette, even though there's no suffering or reason to. And then I had the strangest thought, and that was, it was like the feeling of the nostalgia of having
hmm,
suffered.
hmm,
After
yeah,
trying to avoid suffering for 19 years with all my being, every fiber, trying to
yeah,
for it to finally totally and utterly permanently end. I just sat there and thought, I kind of miss it.
right. And we're addicted to our suffering for
Yeah.
sure. It's a
And
hobby.
that's what a
Peop
seeker is they're a junkie, and what their drug of choice is suffering.
Yes. And they're not really interested in the ending of the suffering.
Right. No, they want more of it.
They're
They're addicted
it's
to it.
it's it's a persona. I
Yeah,
suffer, I
they want more
seek.
suffering the way a heroin addict wants more heroin.
Absolutely.
They can lie to your face. Oh yeah, I want to quit. Oh, you're the guy that helps people quit heroin. Oh yeah, I really want to quit. Yeah, but do
Yeah.
you want to quit?
Do you?
Well, yeah, I want to quit. Yeah, but
Yeah.
do you want to quit? Yeah, I really want to quit. It's like, well, when you're good and ready, you will. You
Yeah.
know, why are you
Yeah.
here? Get out of here. You know.
Right.
That's what it is. The
It
seeking
is.
mind is addicted to suffering. It's addicted to anything. Really, what it is, it's not suffering specifically. What it is it's addicted to the realism of the dream.
Yeah.
And how does it experience the realness of the dream world? Pain, suffering, conflict, drama.
Right.
And so there is a sufficient amount of pain, suffering, drama, and conflict in the matrix so that it can seem real.
Yeah. And it gives it plenty of opportunity to express that, experience that, and the world kind of reinforces it, and we project it out. It comes back and you're like, yep, that's the way it is.
Yeah.
And it's a self-fulfilling prophecy of
Right.
suffering, and it's a hobby. Quite
Right.
honestly, I see a lot of people
Right.
suffer, and to them it's their hobby. They got nothing better to
Really,
do.
truly. Yeah.
Truly and truly. Remember after my
Or
whatever,
worrying. It takes many forms, but yeah,
right,
every
takes a
form of
lot
it.
of
Yeah.
forms. And when I first heard of Advaita Vedanta and I started looking at it, and I go, there's a monastery in San Diego. I'm
Uh-huh.
gonna go there and sit with those guys. And I did. And there was a meditation before, and there's some swamis in there, and I don't know anything about any of that, right? I don't know why I'm here. Feel like I'm supposed to be here. I sit there, meditate with them, which is really powerful. But then they go do the talk and they do a lecture, and then there's questions afterwards. And I'm seeing all these people that I could tell had been there a long time. They all seem to know each other, like they're part of that culture, that thing. And there's a bunch of ladies asking questions in there. They've been going there for 30 years, and they're miserable and they're suffering. It's like you're sitting here with the Swami. He's told you the same thing. It's the same answer every time, said a much of way, but you're still come here to lectures twice a week, 3 times a week, whatever, and you're miserable and you're suffering, and you can see it. They've turned the seeking into a persona.
Yeah.
And getting the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow is, oh,
And now
God,
they
no.
can't let go of the identity of being a
Can't
seeker.
do. Yes.
And so the seeking can't end. Yeah.
Can't end.
I've met a lot of people. I call them advanced lifelong seekers.
What in
People
the
who
heck?
have perfected seeking to such an extent that they're the ultimate seeker amongst seekers. So what, are they going to give that up? Of course not. They're less likely to
Right.
actually make that final step because they're so good at seeking.
I think that's a bigger trap than being completely clueless.
Yeah. Because at least
Right.
if you're completely clueless and you're aware of that, you can go, hey, listen, I was
Yeah.
deluding myself for a while. Then I realized like the real journey
Yeah.
starts now because I'm finally open
Aware.
to the idea that I've been wrong all this time and I'm still
Yeah.
confused and deluded. So now what? That is much more potential than I already know all this. I've already heard. I wrote
Yeah.
9 books on it. Like, well, then you're fucked. You're stuck.
Right.
Sorry, you're the expert. How could I? You're done.
You got
You're
all
fucked.
the knowledge, but the knowledge won't get you over the hurdle.
Yeah.
Right. If
Sometimes
I
it
go to
anchors you
one
to
more thing, if I there's a bit of information I didn't get, if I get that,
it. That's how it thinks. Yeah,
it's like
I've
it's
heard that
not
so
there.
many times from so many advanced seekers that come to me and they talk to me and they say, I get everything you're saying. I've heard all this a million times. I'm just combing through it to see if I missed something. And I'm like, no, that's not what this is. Like, this is not, oh, one word. Oh, now my intellectual understanding is complete. Now I'm enlightened. No, it has nothing to do with that. Like, it's nice, right? Like, I'm
Yeah.
very glad on a certain level. I'm glad I can articulate all this so clearly because of what I had to study
Hmm.
prior to awakening, because I felt so separate.
Yes.
Conversely, I have a friend who woke up when he was 8 years old.
Mm. Yeah.
In other words, he
Did
was
he stay
probably only,
awake?
yeah. So in
Yeah.
other words, he was only unawake for what, a year or less his whole
Yeah.
life. And yet
Yeah.
I had 19 years of hell from 8 to 27. And I consider
Yeah.
myself lucky that it, you know,
Yeah.
so when I talk to him, he's like, yeah, I have no idea half these teachers you're talking to, half the shit and he's like, I wish I kind of knew about this stuff, but at the same time, and I'm like, yeah, like the only reason I know about this shit is because I had to seek for longer. It's like,
Before.
yeah. Like, so
Yeah.
I can articulate certain things a little clearer, but you can articulate certain things a little clearer because you've been in that state for longer. I've been trying to articulate this for longer. But it's funny how that works, because if you don't have years and years and years of seeking, then you won't actually have certain backgrounds of having to dive into these traditions, even though that research is just this rabbit hole, dualistic mind, addiction, tunnel vision thing. But it is nice to have both. Like I do feel fortunate that I had the intellectual understanding of it and the words for it before it happened, so that
I
when
thought I
it
lost my
happened,
mind.
yeah, exactly. Like that happens all the time,
I was
right?
on my own, and
You
it
did lose your
was
mind,
I
and it's
did,
peaceful
absolutely.
now.
Now I'm like, God, I need to lose my mind more often, right? You got to get out of your mind.
In India, that's a good thing. You say, I lost my mind. They say,
Absolutely.
oh, you lucky bastard. Good for you.
Thank goodness. Yeah.
Wow. What do you have to teach us? You lost your mind? Wow.
I
Everyone
do.
gather.
Yeah.
United States, oh, he lost his mind. Stay away from
Yeah. 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 And it was nice that there was things like Advaita non-duality and things that explained this experience, this awareness. And it wasn't that I need to learn all of that. It was just confirmation. Oh,
Right,
okay,
exactly.
good. And
You're not alone in this.
I
It's
did
an
feel
experience.
residual programming in the body. My DNA has generations of certain programming. My mind has, many decades of programming. And Advaita and some of those practices help untangle some of that. But coming from the perspective of, I know I'm not that, but I'm still affected by it. How do I
Right,
untangle that? And that's ongoing. That's
right.
probably
Oh,
a
sure.
forever thing.
Yeah.
But I also don't feel any dramatic urge to
Right.
change anything or do anything.
Exactly.
I'm not desperately seeking
Exactly.
anything.
That's the way I put it. I say, desperate seeking becomes mild curiosity.
Yeah.
Or
I
the
mean,
way I
that's
put it, the other
cool.
side of it is, like I said before, yeah, exactly. There's
That's
nothing wrong
cool.
with it.
Yeah, cool.
It doesn't have to start or stop. It's just it's great. You can still
Yeah.
do that. Oh, cool. You can still play with it. Great. I'm just not. Oh, I gotta find out. It's just like, oh, this is fun. This is cute. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm not doing it anyway.
Right. Exactly. It just happens. It's
You
just a
know?
leftover momentum of the brain and the energy body. And so the way I put it, I say, upon awakening, 90% of all the trauma in the energy body is wiped clean. 90% of the neural patterns, momentum, all that stuff, suffering, seeking, all of it is wiped clean. But that remaining 10%,
Yeah.
it's not like there's two ways to look at it. I've seen sages look at this two different ways. I've had some people that have had multiple shifts in perspective. They've had a deepening of the emptiness and practicing Sogchen empowerments and things, and they'll say, you know, this keeps going, and it can keep going until there's none of that left, and then you're a full Buddha, if you will.
Mm.
And then the other side of that argument is, now I've spent my life chasing this, finally got it, and now I'm much older. My hair is pure white now, not gray. And from this perspective, why don't we all just stay here and hang out instead of diving into emptiness, you know? And it's like, I can see both sides of that. It's like the remaining 10% can be worshipped and maintained, or it can be destroyed. And there's no right or wrong with that. It's like, those are both beautiful expressions of the awakened state. No matter what you do with that, whether you cling to that remaining 10%, like, I hope this doesn't fade, or if you actively try to whittle that down, or you do something in between. And I'm kind of doing something in between, you know, and none of it matters now.
There's no
It
wrong
doesn't
answer in
matter.
that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. There's no, it's kind of like very similar to the saying, there's no wrong way to grieve.
Right.
Similar to that. There's no right or wrong way. Or people will say, well, I heard that in Buddhism, upon enlightenment, one chooses to become an arhat or a bodhisattva. It's like, no, those are just two flavors it can take, and it can bend in and out of that in the course of 5 minutes.
If you think there's choice in any of this, you misunderstood.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Am I the doer?
Right.
Or am I being done? Like, is
Yeah.
this is just happening? And if I'm very, very honest, I see it happening, but I'm not in any kind of control over it.
It's obvious. It's not a theory you read about. It's your lived experience. And that's the part they miss. They're like, well, I heard that, but that's just an idea. No, it's not just an idea.
Yeah. And it's funny when I've said to a few friends, they noticed a big change in me. I went through a lot of radical changes.
Yeah.
Without awareness, things fell away, other things came in, and that's just what it is. And some people came to me and said, you know, what's going on? Can you tell me? And I said, well, I could tell you, but then you'd form an idea and a belief system. You'd think it has to happen this way.
Right.
And that's the exact opposite of what I'd ever want you to do. Right. Don't believe me. Please don't believe me.
Yeah.
Please don't trust me.
Yeah, don't you dare.
Don't.
Yeah.
You got, because you can't conceptualize it and get it. You got to make the journey. It's like Joseph Campbell, the 100, you know, the hero of 1,000 faces is each one of us has to take that journey inward, slay the dragon, face the demons, and find yourself.
Yeah.
A million, a billion, a trillion paths back to the source, back to one.
And none of them are the same. That's the whole point. Is like that the only way there. It's funny because there's a uniqueness to the relative and a uniqueness to the absolute. So you'll way Eckhart totally put it. He said, you'll notice that there's this felt sense of preciousness or uniqueness. But what I want you to understand is it has nothing to do with the character.
Nothing.
That what's so unique about you is what we all share. That's what's so precious, is literally God.
Yeah.
The uniqueness of God that we are. And yet it's also exquisitely beautiful that none of us are exactly the same.
Absolutely.
That's even a particularly strong thing within the human. So the human, I'm going to style my hair this way, I'm going to wear this kind of shirt, this type of colored thing. I'm going to, and it always likes to differentiate. The most obvious version of this is in twins.
Yeah.
The twins always want to be as different from each other as possible.
Some, yeah.
To some extent.
Yeah.
So you'll see you'll see every version of this where
so they want to
you'll have you'll have twins that want to be exactly the same. You'll have twins that want to be polar opposites. And very often you'll get a good twin, bad twin thing, because one wants to be the goody two shoes, one wants to be the bad boy, and you know, one will wear glasses and have a certain haircut, one will wear contact. They want to differentiate enough that they're not viewed as the same person.
Yes.
And yet some of them rejoice in being that similar. So it's also a DNA quantum thing. So like mother's intuition And there's two things to that. There's DNA similarity and emotional connection level.
Right.
So if you find your soulmate level, you'll be very psychic with each other, reading each other's minds, even though you're not related. But then there's also like mother's intuition, or like twins feeling each other's pain. So there's two sides to that. There's the genetic similarity,
Yep.
which is an epigenetic magic of its own.
Yep.
On a quantum entanglement level regarding fifth dimensional structures of DNA. But there's also something as simple as feeling emotionally close to somebody will elicit this flow of siddhi, supernatural psychic activity back and forth too, which
Yeah.
has nothing to do with DNA on a certain level.
Absolutely. It's also interesting how they have the same DNA, they have the same net conditioning because they presumably grew up in the same environment.
If they did,
But
yeah.
but you get these different personalities,
Right.
right? Same DNA, same mother,
And
father,
that shows
same
you something
environment.
about the energetic signature, perhaps.
Well,
Yeah.
what did you bring with you from prior that has a
Right.
certain tendency, certain
Right.
predispositions? I think that makes a good case for reincarnation or
Sure.
whatever, that this isn't our first time being embodied. This isn't our, our spirit, our Atman, whatever you want to call it, is immortal. And that's the thing that's carrying through.
And it's weird too, because even on the, like, there's obviously at least 3 levels, right? Like, it's very obvious to us that there's a physical level where we go to work and we pretend to compete and pretend to fulfill roles and portray, and that's beautiful, and there's nothing wrong there. And we are a mortal animal body, etc. And then there's the absolute, where you're utterly beyond time and space, utterly formless and aware, and yet there's somehow contradictory to the mind, in a way, for me anyway, the in between, the astral, if you will, where it's something in between the individuality of being a person. It's something in between permanent and impermanent, because the absolute is permanent, the relative is impermanent, and yet that energy signature reincarnation level is something in between. It's like for example, I have a mentor, and this mentor was born awake and never left that state.
Yeah.
And they too have had this experience of seeing that energetic signature, but they've had multiple glimpses of it over the course of time, and they said that it changes over time. So in other words, there is this immortal soul, if you will, but it too is just an energy signature that, even though there's an unchanging aspect of it, it too is always changing and evolving and growing, even though it's not material.
Absolutely. In the non-physical,
it's dynamic. Even
it's
in the
still
non-physical,
dynamic, it's still changing. The way it was shown is, if it has form, it's still in the dream.
and it's
Whether it's
all
physical,
anything
non-physical, thought.
experienced is dream, so
Absolutely.
I tend to envision the astral layer as the dream, in this world as the dream within the dream.
Absolutely.
And so yes, that's more real than this, and yet this can seem more real because we can be more thoroughly tricked. And yet, one thing I neglected to say before, that I'm glad we're circling back to this, was I talked about how Socrates was awake. Well, when I saw that shape, I immediately started thinking about Plato, because he was always like, the world of forms, as if he was pointing just above his head, and everyone's like, what the fuck is this guy talking about?
Yeah.
And then I saw, one of the Platonic forms, if you will, and I'm like, oh, I'm a fucking shape of light. It's just above my head. Like, sounds eerily similar to what Plato, it was too esoteric for everyone to hear about from Plato, but he must have seen the same shit.
Same with Pythagoras.
Yeah,
look at
exactly.
Pythagoras,
The Neoplatonists, Pythagoras. Yeah, exactly.
The incommensurate, the triangle, the Pythagorean triangle, I believe, is the shape of the atomic structure of water. The dipole, the triangle, and those ratios, the 108, 108, 32, and that's how consciousness tunes into our body, through water. Without water, there's no life, there's no consciousness.
Yeah, Masaru Emoto and all that stuff. Yeah.
I've always been fascinated with, if there is a God, I always assume there's a God. I've always felt the presence of God. How would a non-physical interact with the physical? And it's through the water, through
Makes sense. I mean,
consciousness.
you can't have life without water and electricity.
Cannot.
And
And
what do water and electricity remind us of when we look at them? Shiva and Shakti.
absolutely.
Unmoving clarity, and it's so hilarious.
Yeah.
It's a perfect metaphor, and you're right. I mean, if you really think about it, we're mostly water and electricity. That's what's as a physical body, we are the vast majority of everything important going on here is the movement and the qualities and nature of water and electricity.
Absolutely.
Water holds a charge, and there's a charge.
Yeah. And the electricity gives the oomph, and the water gives the the life something to grab onto.
Yeah.
But they both um, break down into smaller components that are the same. It ultimately goes back to light. They're
Yeah.
still the same, expressed in different ways. You get a lot of electricity and you get a lot of water, and you can make something happen. And yeah, that's why I have those things there, because to me, that is life, right? Without those sacred geometry, without
Yeah.
these core base truths, none of this is here. It's all window dressing at that point.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's very centering for me, because you can get tied up in all of this other stuff and the world, and all these apparent things going on. But then when I'm sitting and I get in my silence, it's there. It's powerful. It's
The
strong, and
charge is
it's
there. And I hear that from like really advanced deep meditators that, when you enter into this still empty statuesque space, there's energy there.
oh,
The
I
less you
felt like I was
move
going to blow apart.
somehow, yeah, that's what's so interesting about it.
Yeah,
That's why the
yeah,
Shiva Shakti element is so inseparable, because the more still you are, the more charged you are. The more you flail around, the more you burn out the energy. And it's so fucking interesting because it's so obvious. Like when after awakening, I would read all about all these energy maps and Taoist cultivation and stuff. And I remember like reading that as a seeker, like, oh, this is how you get to enlightenment. And afterwards, you're like, oh, this is only for people already in this state. I understand.
after. Yeah,
Weird.
yeah,
Like the seeker
right.
always gets the wrong idea on the directionality thing. Like, oh, I got to do this, that, and that to lead to enlightenment. It's like, no, that's what you would be doing after. Like, what are you talking
Right,
about?
right. And then it makes sense, and it just happens on its own. And
Like
yeah,
conservation of energy. That's where I was going with that. Is like
yep,
after awakening, you just spontaneously stop wasting energy. you don't
absolutely.
you don't move as much unless you just effortlessly still, effortlessly quiet, effortlessly calm, effortlessly peaceful, and you're just spontaneously not wasting energy. And then you
Yes,
you you read back on Taoism and you're like, oh, it reads as if a sage talking to seekers telling them what to do, and that's not at all. It's just them
no,
describing what it's like now.
yeah,
Now energy isn't wasted. The seeker wastes energy, the sage
yeah.
doesn't. That's all.
I agree with that. I noticed in my job, in my career, I used to grind, and
Yeah.
I had identity in that. And then all of a sudden, I'm like, I don't need to stress on things that are not occurring now. It's
Right.
going to be what it is. It's going to take care of itself. And I have faith that when the moment arises, I'll respond accordingly. And all of a sudden, I'm doing so much more work with so much less energy and not exhausted. And I'm like,
Right.
something is wrong.
There's
I'm
like an
cheating.
endurance. There's no burnout, but there's an
There's no,
endurance in its place.
I'm not
Yeah,
resisting
it's
anything.
really
I'm not
interesting.
fighting anything. I got
Exactly.
customers coming at me, and I'm like, yep,
Right.
yeah, I'm not,
Exactly.
I don't need to rear up and fight that, you know?
Yeah.
And
It's so
it's,
funny because the moment you have permission never to work again, now you can work harder than you ever
yeah,
thought, and it doesn't even feel like hard work. It's just happening.
the synchronicities were off the scale. I felt like the world's working the universe is in my favor because it is me. All I have
Yeah.
to do is not acknowledge it. The world's not hostile. It is
Right.
full of plenty. There's no lack.
Yeah.
And fear is the only thing that can really hold me back.
Right.
If I fall into my mind and I fall into fear, it was weird because I was not fairly new, but it'd been a couple of years, and then COVID hit, right?
Mm.
And I was feeling a lot of, I'm going to change my career. I want to get something more spiritually minded, and I want to do something that resonates with this experience.
Mhm.
Then all of a sudden, wham, COVID comes in. And I could feel my ego coming in, my fear coming up. I got to protect my family. I got to,
Desperation of the animal
know,
survival mode,
right,
literally,
that, but
literally.
I
Yeah,
literally, and I felt it. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm stuck back in this thing. Like I
right.
felt this contraction into the body.
Yeah,
And through the first, few months of the lockdowns, it was a really strong catalyst for growth.
yeah,
Really, really strong, because I had to sit now and really go watch the programming and see how strong it is. And actually, I think it's really, obviously it helps. Everything is for a reason.
yeah.
But I saw the fear taking over, and I saw the fog of fear,
And
right?
and it shows you how delusional intentionally all this fear mongering is. It's like
Intent. It's
the
propaganda.
more, and it's always, and I don't just mean specific to COVID, but I mean very specifically, anytime you turn on the news in the last
Yeah.
30 years,
Yeah.
it's all just fear based.
Fear goblins. I call them fear
Yeah,
goblins.
yeah,
They're just up there pretty little dancing around. Be afraid, buy
yeah.
this. And if you buy this, you won't be afraid. It's
Right,
like,
right.
yeah. Yeah. But I think a lot of people are experiencing that. I think a lot of people are going through this right now. And it's one of the reasons why I want to kind of be a voice in that chorus.
Yeah,
For a
exactly.
long time, I thought, I don't, nobody wants to hear what I have to say. And I don't think I'm anything special. And I don't really I have nothing to talk about. Right. I know how I feel. I'm experiencing this. It's improved my life, my family, and all that. I'm good.
Yeah,
But then I see people suffering. I see the world around me, and I'm getting this urge and this calling of, you know what? There's a lot of suffering, and there's also a lot of opportunity for people to wake up right now. And
yeah. That's true too.
while I'm
Exactly.
still
Good
in my own
timing for that. Yeah.
the timing, I'm still in my own battle. I'm still in my own
Mhm.
evolution. I'm still in my own process. But in the meantime, I don't have to be
Yeah.
some thought
And
of a
that's the
finish
thing, right?
line,
And it's not a
and then I'll talk
choice,
about
but
it.
you can see the ebb and flow of the energetic seasons of the flavor of bodhisattva and arhat.
Yeah.
Like I'll
Yeah.
flicker between that in a given day,
Yeah.
where it's like, okay, I'm free, I'm good,
Yeah.
nothing's needed. I don't project that feeling of I have to rescue you onto anybody, so I don't have.
No.
I'm good. However, yeah, it's funny how it works. It goes back and forth between. It's like on the one hand, I can see how there's a drama triangle, and I know
Yep.
I'm not a rescuer or a bully, but oh
Yeah.
shit, I'm a recovering helper. Okay,
Yeah.
fair
Yeah.
enough. So I am participating in the drama to the extent that I feel I have to save anybody from anything. That's true in this story. And part
Hmm.
on the one hand, it's like a non-duality speaker will say, I have no expectations. I don't expect you to get anything from this. There's no reason. I have no motive. And that's half true and half a lie.
Yeah.
Because in the back of my mind, I'm like, yeah, I'm doing this for the person I'm speaking to wake up, or to share
Hmm.
something for an audience to help them wake up, to help end this,
Hmm.
or even if it's somebody who already had an awakening who's trying to understand and integrate the understanding of what this is and how it works. Um, you know and
Yeah.
but even then it's like you go back and forth in a given
Yeah.
day between those perspectives of like, yeah, like the best way I could explain it is in Buddhism, if you were speaking from the relative seeking perspective within Buddhism, you would say, if you find the Buddha on the road, kill him, may all beings be free. And then from
There
the
you go.
absolute, you would say, I am the Buddha, all beings are free. But from the
Always.
more absolute Advaita perspective, you say, there are no beings.
There's nothing.
What
we're being
beings? Who are
we're
you
being
talking to
dreamt.
right now? Even saying this.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's why I love when people say, like when people try to like be shitty about Advaita speak and they're not even in this state and they're trying to abuse the but then who said blah blah blah. Anytime something, well then who said? But I always go, dear, who are you talking to? I'm
Who are you
concerned.
talking to?
I'm concerned for your mental health. Who are you talking to? There's nobody here.
Right. That's really it. That's really, there's nothing there. This thing, yeah,
Even a
this thing,
sage trying to wake up a seeker is just delusion speaking to delusion, because it's like
delusion taking the delusion.
it's oh, I'm pretending like there's two of us here now, and one
Yeah,
needs to save the other. There's nobody here.
ultimately, for sure.
So it's funny how it spontaneously participates in clarity and delusion and ignorance, all in a good way, the same way a magician would, or an audience of a magician would. So the way I put it is, I say, there's one trick being done, and you're the
Hmm.
magician and the audience. And the
Yes, that's
only
it.
problem is that you're so good that even
That you
you are
believe in it.
going, okay, how did he do that?
It's true. Yeah.
And it's funny because in my own story, I actually am an illusionist. I actually am
Yeah.
a professional grade street magician and a singer songwriter and a web designer and things like that. But I always think it's funny, like the metaphors of that.
Yeah.
Every little thing is a metaphor now, everywhere.
Everything is a metaphor because
Literally.
nothing is literally anything,
Yeah.
right? It's an
Yeah.
appearance. That's why I say it appears to be this way. I I
Yeah.
don't know for certain.
It
I
seems
can't.
to appear to be this
It
way.
seems to appear this way, but I can't know it for certain or if it's truth. I know one thing for certain, and everything else is very, very subjective,
Yeah.
and everything else is changing.
Like
And
literally though, even the words are so hilarious.
yeah,
Everything else is
yes,
subjective. Like, of course it is. Like,
it has to be.
yeah,
There's
it's the
only
only
one
way.
object,
It's the only way
and
it can seem to be anything at all. Yeah.
it's so obvious, right? Once you see it, it's so
Yeah.
starkly obvious that everything is appearing to me,
Mhm.
and everything that I can be aware of is an object, but there has to be an eternal subject to every object. Otherwise, how would I know there's an object there?
And that actually happened to me during the Kundalini awakening samadhi. It was at that time, it was the experience of meeting God.
Hmm.
And now I know there's not two. There isn't an Andrew and a God meeting each other,
Mhm.
obviously. But that's how it played out. And I'd ask it questions, it would tell me things. And at one point, it showed me this solid white light that underlies all of physicality. And I said, "What is that?" And I said, "That is my infinite attentional awareness of
Hmm.
each thing that keeps it as existent."
Yeah.
In other words, this is the daydream of the divine, but the awareness is so infinite that fuck it, it's real. You know what I mean?
It holds it all together
Real is as real as it can seem.
as it can seem, as it appears.
It's as real as it can seem to appear to arise.
Yes. Yeah. But it's not. Ultimately, this all goes away.
And
Ultimately,
it never
anything that
was.
appears,
It
anything that
already isn't.
appears disappears, right? If
Yeah.
it appears,
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
disappears.
Right, right.
Oh,
The
well,
vanishing
so
act.
what's real?
Just like the magician,
Yeah,
disappearing, reappearing objects, it's all the same metaphor. And
right.
you know, the people somebody the other day said, "Well, this is all just happening." And someone else said, "Well, no, it's just appearing to happen." Someone else said, "No, it's just appearing to appear." And at first I wanted to be like,
And
"All
when
right." At first, my first knee jerk reaction was like, "All right, it's getting a little silly and goofy and meta." Knock. And then I read it again. I'm like, "No, he's right. He's
true,
right. It's
it's right.
only appearing to appear."
It's appearing to appear.
No, no, that is clarifying. That's not just some weird runaway meta train. No,
Right.
he's right. It isn't even appearing.
It is appearing.
It's
It's
appearing to
all a
appear.
trick of light and shadow,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. It's all
Right.
mirrors and light.
Fractaling out. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
It's yeah, it's all densely in one place, fully connected, appearing to be. Space is an appearance. It
yeah,
is not real.
yeah. Exactly,
The
exactly.
distance between here and there is
Right.
not real.
Yeah, space time is the same thing. We often say there's no time, and everyone goes, "Yeah, it's timeless
Mm,
realization." Yeah, but there's no space too.
there's no
It's time,
space.
space,
You need
and
time for space to do
yeah.
this, but there's not that, so this never happens. It appears
So
to happen.
so of course it's the the Einstein's theory is of relativity. Of course.
It's very relative,
Of
right?
course.
Right. It also assumes that there are such a thing as particles,
Yeah.
and I think there's some good debate to be had that is not true.
Yeah, there are
They're
no
not
particles.
individual, discrete things, right? There's not a
Yeah.
bunch of billiard balls flying around
Right.
in orbits around
It's
things.
the way I view it is first of all, when we say energy, we don't we mean energy on the level of oneness when we really have realized the level of noneness. So when we
None.
say, if we say energy or light or electricity or awareness, we're only talking about the second most absolute layer, because even that is just dream. But when looking at that layer, I see the cosmos as just one field or sea of energy that's like intertwined with itself. And even that is simply an appearance. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. There you go. Yeah, exactly right.
That.
And we can look at that
Right.
because nature is fractal. We can say that that is discussing the shape of the universe, the energetic field, as well as the subatomic. Because
Yes.
of that fractal, as above, so below, holographic nature, you'll see the same shapes on every scale or layer.
Yep. Yep.
And
As above, so below.
yeah,
It's a repeating fractal.
yeah,
Everything is a matter of scale. From our scale, this looks a certain way. You back out, it goes the other way. You back out further, you see the same pattern again. Same way on the
exactly.
way in.
You keep zooming in infinitely, or out, you're gonna see a loop, recurring
Same
theme
thing.
over and over.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. And we are that, right? We are the intelligence that allows that repeating
And
pattern
that's
to
only
exist.
possible if it's infinite, and it is.
It is infinite. Yeah. Yeah.
That was one of my original teaching points when I was still a seeker. Back when I was an advanced seeker, I'd still coach people on it. I just only half knew what I was talking about. I wasn't under the impression that I had, was
Mhm.
enlightened or anything. Like I knew it wasn't quite there or anything, but I still kind of was on a certain track where I could kind of tell people certain things, and
Mhm.
people would ask me like, well, what do I do? Like, how do I meditate? It's like, well, like just ponder infinity for a while. Let's start there, because it's like you're never you'll never reach the end of that one. It's like just really think about infinity. Good luck. It's
Yeah.
like,
Well, it's like a koan. Give them an impossible task and
yeah,
see if they'll go
exactly.
frustrate themselves
See if
for
it'll
a
break
while.
the mind. Yeah.
Yeah.
Leave the mind hanging until it snaps. Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Exhaust the mind and make the mind realize how silly it is. Yeah.
The
It's funny how
mind
that
trying to
works.
become enlightened has got to be one of the silliest things there are.
Yeah.
The mind trying to figure this out,
The mind
to
is
know.
confusion itself. It's hilarious.
Yeah. 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 But like I was saying, is I'm really feeling the urge that there is a moment in time where, just like you're doing, like others are doing, I seeing more and more of it. I'm sure I'm in my own information bubble to a certain degree, and the algorithms are bringing me,
Oh, that's good,
you
good.
know,
God
what
bless the
I'm,
holy algorithm,
though, yeah, the Google. Uh, but yeah, just wanting to be a voice in the chorus.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
I think the feeling of alone is it's the most ignorant feeling that can be, to
Yeah,
feel you're alone.
right,
And yet seems to be intrinsic in almost all of us, that we
right.
feel alone, we feel misunderstood, we feel separate, we feel weak, we feel mortal,
And it
finite,
seeks out connection,
and it seeks
right?
connection.
It seeks
And
to be seen and heard, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's one of the best pieces of advice I ever received was trust your own experiences
mhm,
and share them.
yeah.
Not that you can trust your perceptions, but when you really do have a mind-blowing astral samadhi level thing,
Mhm.
or an awakening of some kind, or there's certain levels where they seem so much more real than your normal one, that if you were to throw the baby out with the bathwater, that would be insane. And
Yeah.
so if you have a divine experience of a certain magnitude, to try to disregard it is madness. Because even if I'm deluded, then I'm supposed to be sharing from this particular level or layer of delusion,
Yeah.
because that's what's been experienced here. Like if I saw Bigfoot, I'd have a channel about that, you know? I
Yeah.
haven't.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I do think that it needs a voice, even though it's known, even though it's realized that you never need to speak again. I still invite and urge people to, share their
Yeah.
experiences at very least.
Feels like the world is ready
Yeah. And I had that
and
thought
needing.
when Trump got elected. I had the thought, like, the system is on shaky grounds in a way that it's exposing the matrix to be a matrix. It's like it's a metaphor showcasing how the system works in a way
Yeah.
that it's accidentally waking the world up just by certain things happening within the system. And then when COVID hit, then it really
Yeah.
like, okay, now the system's really, they've been lying to us for so long that it's starting to unravel. They've pushed the envelope so
Now they've
far
gone
that it's starting to
beyond
unravel.
absurdity. You
Yeah,
have to be willfully ignorant at this point to
right.
not see that you're being lied to, at least. I,
Exactly.
I tell people I have no idea what the truth is. I know that I'm not getting all the information that's available,
All I know is it's
but
not the official story.
all I know is they're lying.
Whatever the newsman is telling me, it's not that.
It's not that. Whatever they're saying, I don't know what the truth is.
Right.
I'm not saying I have
But
special
but I
information or
do know they're
knowledge,
lying to us.
but I know they're lying. And I know this isn't about health,
Oh, of course not. Yeah,
you know.
of course not.
And
There's a
but
population problem.
there are those that believe that, and they have a lot of resources and they're acting on it. That is
Yeah,
for
it's all
sure.
money. It's all money.
Money. I think some of the
Big
people at the top
pharma,
have
big
more
war
money than
machines. Oh
have
yeah.
more money than they need. They don't want to share the planet with the rest of us peons,
It's
you know.
sad too, because if we lived in a purely, I'm not saying we should do this, I'm just saying if all wealth was redistributed, literally everyone would be a million. That's how much money there is.
There is.
Everyone would have over $1 million, probably
Yeah.
2 or 3 million per person, to be honest, which is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of mental illness drives this fucking society? It's bananas.
Ego.
Yeah.
It's all ego,
Mhm.
pure ego. And materialism, atomism,
Yeah. Isn't that funny?
all, yeah, it
The
all ties
materialist
together.
paradigm is just locked in place, even though it's so obsolete that it's ridiculously obvious.
Yes.
They're still peddling that materialist paradigm. I know some sages that believe there's a material world. It's like, how deep does this conditioning go? It's like
Right.
even awakening isn't a guarantee that you're gonna realize there isn't a physical world. And that's what's so interesting in my case and in many cases where people have had multiple extreme experiences, not just one or two, but
Mhm.
multiple. And when you see this from so many different angles so intensely, you actually can kind of put it together and get a much better view of what's happening.
Yeah.
And it's valuable. And someone
Yeah.
who has had those types of experiences, the way I put it is like I'm making myself available to be a useful interface. And yeah, I would commend you for doing the same, for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah.
I'm feeling
And there's no
the
competition in this arena. So all the
I'm not,
sages are like cross promoting and helping each other and
yeah.
helping boost each other. And like it's not like something else. Like it's not like, you know, you
Yeah.
install granite countertops and so does the guy across town
Yeah.
and you're ready to fucking assassinate each other. Like it's not like that. It's so
Yeah.
different. Sages don't compete like that. They're like, "Oh good, you're a speaker now. Great. Let's promote you.
Yeah.
Let's get you a website. Let me send some people your way." It's like
Yeah. I think it's
it's beautiful
needed in our society, and I think we're moving that way.
for sure.
I don't know what role I would play in that. I'm going to be open to whatever
Mhm.
source wants to do. I know that I'm detaching from beliefs that keep me rooted in where I'm at, not knowing what's going to be. But I know that these attachments that are left are residual and
Yeah.
conditioned stuff that are unnecessary. And if I
Right.
untether myself further, then I can be used in however
Even
seems
if you don't,
fit.
even
Even
if
if
you
you
don't,
don't,
because again, like I said before, that remaining 10%, it doesn't matter if you get rid of
yeah,
it or not. You can
yeah,
cling on to it desperately and worship it, and that's fine. You can try to
yeah,
destroy it and eradicate it and dive right into emptiness, and that's fine. Or you can do
yeah,
something in between. That's fine.
yeah. There is no wrong once you know you're not doing anything.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, like even I've noticed that even the way I express things has changed over the course of the past year. Like
Sure.
I've only been a public speaker for about 9 months now.
Yeah.
And in those 9 months, even the way I talk about certain things has changed somewhat, like
Sure.
because it's contradictory in its nature, paradoxical. Like on the one hand, I want to say, well, there's nobody here, so what would come back?
Yeah.
Like with regard to reincarnation, like yeah. On the other hand, it's like, yeah, but I did see that energetic signature. Like I can't just pretend I didn't. It informed
Well,
me. It's like
more layers of the dream, right?
yeah, yeah,
Higher layers of the dream,
right, yeah, exactly right,
closer back to Brahman.
right.
And what we think is like a rock is real,
Mm-hmm.
and the notion of God is not physical or not real. The truth is inverted.
Right,
And the further you get from the physical, the more
exactly.
real things
And
are.
that's a very Kriya Yoga perspective on a certain bend. And the way I like to put it is I say God is non-existence itself.
Yeah.
But with the caveat that by exist, we mean to stand apart.
Yes.
And so it's the only thing that isn't seemingly standing apart from itself. And
Yes.
so this oneness is actually a noneness. But when you tell the mind these things, it doesn't compute. It says,
My
no,
mind
you're
hates it.
wrong. It says,
My
no,
mind.
you're,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, any, the seeking mind, especially, like if you were to tell this to, if you were to start spouting off nothing or nobody or Kriya Yoga type stuff or Para Brahman or whatever, the mind wouldn't, the mind can only think in terms of concrete objects juxtaposed to the orientation of a body in time and space. And so the moment you start talking about something utterly beyond that, it assumes you're saying the opposite of what it knows instinctually to be true,
Yeah.
which actually isn't the case. It's just it's hearing the words upside down is what's happening. Is when I say
Yeah.
God is non-existence, I'm saying that in a positive light. I'm saying there's only God and its unmanifested potential, infinite awareness. But what is heard is, oh, you don't believe in God and you don't believe in anything spiritual, you think it's just a material universe. It's like, no, the
No, the
exact
opposite.
opposite of that. So it's funny you heard it totally upside down.
And it's weird, like even some of the Buddhists that I've known talk about no soul,
Mm,
and I'm
yeah,
like, I don't think that's what it says. It says
right.
neti neti neti, not this, not
Yeah,
this, not this, but it never said there's no soul.
right.
It was not addressed directly, but by elimination, ultimately what's left.
The
I
way
believe
I
what
like to translate it, I say there is it's what they're trying to say is that the soul isn't the personality. So there is
is
no
not the personality.
soul as personality, is what's really being
Correct.
said,
There's
in
no
my opinion.
personal soul
Right, right,
because
right.
there's no person. There's
Yeah,
no person.
there's nothing about awareness that's personal.
The
And I
person
hear
doesn't have
people
a soul. The
disagree.
soul has a person.
Right. And the person isn't aware. Awareness is personing. There isn't
Yes,
somebody here that's aware. There isn't
there is
somebody here
not.
that's experiencing.
I'm aware of the persona that's trying to capture the experience,
Yeah.
right? After the fact, it's
And
going, yeah, I
it
did that.
sounds super
I
meta when
did
I
that.
talk about it. Yeah, exactly.
I
I
did
take
that.
credit
No,
for it
I did
now.
that.
Now.
I
Yeah.
said that. I said that. I
Yeah.
did that. No. What? You didn't know what was coming. If you know what's coming next? I don't
Right. Yeah.
know.
What's your next thought? Oh, I have no idea. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you're in control.
Exactly right.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really a pleasure to talk to somebody that understands
Yeah,
that.
you too. Because
Yeah,
there's levels of
absolutely.
rarity to this. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like there's 100 cookie cutter non-dualist sages for every. So it's people who've really plumbed the depths of shamanism, sorcery, the yogic sciences, and liberation. I don't know a whole lot of them.
Yeah. I've plumbed the
That's why their
depths.
voices are so valuable, because
Yeah.
this community needs to hear those types most of all, because
Yeah.
there's not 100 of them.
Yeah. I hope there will be. We need thousands. We need to
Yeah,
change our society um, back to an enlightened society that's based on the fact that we know that every human being is a divine expression of God and we have an inalienable rights because of that. And that's the foundation and the starting point. Now treat each other by the way you're God, act accordingly, you
yeah.
know, right? And I think our society needs that. It's we've gone so far down the de-evolution of the ego and the material and this social construct has gotten completely ludicrous to where the pendulum needs to swing and people need to wake up. And I think it's so painful and so obviously not working that a lot of people will question the beliefs, question the ideas. Okay, I was told all these things, but let's let's throw it up in the air and question this, and if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But you must examine. I tell
Gotta
people,
question everything, gotta doubt everything.
everything.
There's a Zen
We,
proverb there too, it says, where there is doubt, there's awakening. Where there is great doubt, there's great awakening. Where there's no doubt, no awakening.
the unwatched mind is hell. That's what I
Yeah,
say.
yeah.
If you don't watch your mind, you will slip into hell. And if you don't watch your mind and your beliefs and your ideas, they will consume you. It's like a possession,
Yeah.
quite literally.
In both cases, you're either possessed by the ego or you're possessed by non-dual awareness. Either way, you're
Yeah,
possessed. Either way, you're not in control.
that's true. But one feels okay. One
Yeah,
feels right, right? The,
exactly right.
the
Yeah.
experience is different. My chest isn't tight, my stomach doesn't hurt, and I don't
Everything
feel like
feels just
fighting
right,
anybody.
which is the
Yeah,
opposite of how I felt for many, 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 many years. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely.
I felt like my life was put on pause for the
Right.
entire seeking duration. From 8 to 27, it was like my life was put on pause
Yeah.
in the unnatural state, if you will.
Yeah. I was 50.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, that's
but
the
it's,
average age for awakening.
yeah,
The average human doesn't awaken at all, but out of 1,000 people, maybe one will get lucky.
yeah,
And the average age for awakening is about 50.
yeah. Doesn't surprise me. You,
I assumed I would be 49 when it happened, but I ended up
yeah,
being 27. And
yeah.
by the time it hit, it felt like it was running late anyway. Like back in my mind, cause like I had this idea back in my seeking days as a Kundalini yogi type guy, and I thought, okay, I've heard the nervous system rewires every 7 years, and after about 7 years, the pineal gland flips off, and then after about 14 years, you're like going through puberty and things. And you're 21, you see the milestones.
Hmm.
And in a way, I guess it kind of makes sense because the awakening at 27 was very close to one of those, the 28. But I always just assumed like 7 times 7 completion completed that I'd be 49 when enlightenment struck or something. And yeah, happened at 27. But even though it happened at 27, I also had a sneaking suspicion like even the greater journey wouldn't be completed for another 7 years. So if I believe that little story, then I'm about 2.5 years away from an even bigger or another shift of some kind.
Yeah.
So
I don't think it ends. I don't think it ends till we fully wake up. I think it's a process, and
yeah,
source is unknowable, especially in this finite form.
it's all infinite.
So
Like the
it's
moment
all infinite.
as a seeker, I've noticed the tendency of like trying to map it out and trying to be
Yeah.
clever and I can figure this out. Like I remember one example of it was I was in my early 20s and I had the thought, or maybe mid 20s by this point, probably my mid 20s, probably like 24, 25, somewhere in there, maybe 23. But I had the thought, okay, there's probably one temporal dimension and maybe 12 spatial dimensions. 12 around one kind of neatly fits together into the geometry and the patterns of occult understanding. Yeah, it's probably one temporal dimension. And then I took 6 grams of magic mushrooms and went, oh, it's infinite. Right, infinite.
Yeah. No.
Okay.
You can slice and dice this thing a lot of
The
different
moment
ways.
you want to try to, but
Yeah,
really, it's all infinite.
it
There's
really is.
infinite dimensionlessness and infinite dimensions. It depends on how you look at it. Infinite channels, yet no channels. Infinite layers, but no layers.
Yeah. It's all one thing
Yeah,
in as many ways as your
it's
imagination
infinite.
can imagine it,
Yeah,
right? And
exactly.
beyond imagining.
Literally.
Yeah. Beyond
Yeah.
imagining.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is real, what you really are, is beyond imagining because it wasn't imagined. And yet
Right.
everything you hold to be real, every layer of any experience, is all
Is
imagined.
imagined.
Yeah.
Still
And
form.
yet what you are is beyond even us talking about it in terms of awareness, because awareness is just a word. So it's like, it's beyond energy. It's beyond, even though that's all there is,
Yeah.
that dreamless sleep layer of para-Brahman is not experience.
Yeah.
But it's real, it's true, but it's not experience, it's not dream. And so anything that's being experienced is dream content, including the lives of
All
the
of this.
enlightened, whatever.
Yeah.
Even the fruits of enlightenment is dream content.
Yes. Absolutely. But it makes the dream much more comfortable.
Oh God, yeah. Oh
So
God, far more comfortable. Even money could probably give. I mean, money probably goes a long way. Don't get me wrong,
yeah.
but yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah.
Everything's okay now,
It is.
unconditionally.
Unconditionally. And abundance can happen or lack can happen or
Either way's fine.
good can happen,
because
bad can happen,
because
whatever.
losing everything won't feel as bad as you think in this state, and
Yeah.
getting everything won't feel as good as you think. So there's a sweet spot in between that isn't mental illness. You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong, the whole world is intentional mental illness, but
Yeah.
there's something in between. Like you can see the graphs, because I have a background in psychology as well. I know you do in your family. We can look at a graph of like money will increase your happiness pretty dramatically up until about 40 grand a year. Then it
72.
starts to trickle off, and then it hits another
If you're
break
in
point,
California, it's 72.
and then it hits another break point at 70.
Yeah. Yeah.
But like, you know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
40 grand a year will get you, enough
Your
that like,
basic
okay,
needs.
you're indoors, etc. And then at 70 grand a year in an average area of the United States, in the median
Mhm.
random sampling of an average place, 70,000 would allow you to feel wealthy,
Not here.
rich. And
Yeah.
not where you're at. You might need 400 grand a year or something. But you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's all relative. But
It's all relative.
if you're a homeless person and you're given $100,
It's
if
huge.
you have $50 billion and you're given $1,000,000,
It's
it's not
all
even worth your
relative.
time.
Right. Right.
But there's a sweet spot where you
There
can
is.
be
You know,
free from it but enjoy it and participate in it.
as long as you know it's not real.
Yeah, exactly.
As
That's
long
the
as you
main
know it's
thing.
not real. Yeah.
Exactly.
Money's a great thing. It can be an evil thing. When I was young, we had no money. My dad started a business, made a bunch of money.
Oh.
I watched a guy go from my dad to not being around to not being super nice and being very ego driven. And then later on in life, had issues and went back to broke and became humbled and is a much more decent person now.
Isn't that fucked up? Yeah.
It was worth losing my
It's interesting.
inheritance. It was worth losing my
Mm,
inheritance to get a humble father. And I saw that
yeah.
money does not make the man. Money doesn't make you, money amplifies whatever you're believing. And if you're
Mm,
believing you are your ego and your mind, money's a bad thing.
right,
And
right.
it
Exactly.
enables
And that's part of my
that.
financial trauma. That's why I stayed in poverty,
Yep.
because subconsciously I was doing it on purpose. It was like,
Yep.
on the one hand, I was afraid of success and afraid of my own power, afraid of my own potential. But part of it was, a lot of it, I think, was just like, I see what fortune and fame do to people, and it fucks with their mind. It erodes their character, and I know that's kind of a poverty mentality thinking too, because it doesn't have to, but it tends to.
It does, because
Yeah.
they're people just like everybody else. There is
And
no
we're all
different.
the same.
And we're
People
all,
love to be like, well, I'm not like everybody else. Bullshit. You're
no,
just like everyone else, just like me.
yeah,
We're
just like
all
the
the
people
same.
that said they wouldn't have been the Nazis in Nazi Germany.
Yeah.
And then you look around and you see people going, the
Yet they're
vaccinated
being,
need to be da, 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 and
yeah,
you're like, wait a minute, did you just like,
exactly.
you can't put that together? Come
Jumping
on,
on the
man.
bandwagon. Yeah, exactly
Yeah,
right.
it's I
All in
mean,
the
the
name of
mind is
fear.
easily fooled.
Yeah, what was it, Mark Twain? I think it was Mark
Yeah,
Twain. He said, it's easier to fool somebody. It's 100 times easier to fool somebody than to convince them they've been fooled.
absolutely.
It's sad how true that is.
Yeah,
It's heartbreaking how true that is.
truth is coming, and there's going to be a lot
Yeah.
of people that will not be able to deny what's coming. And I feel Shiva is on the march. Destruction is coming,
Oh
and that's a
yeah.
good thing,
Yeah.
because you got
Kali,
to
Shiva. Yeah.
call it's
The
coming.
wrathful vibe is coming. Yeah.
What I experienced was, if it's false, if it's untrue, if it's ego driven, it's going to be challenged and it's going to be
Yeah.
destroyed. And
Right.
if you're not those things, you got nothing to worry about.
That's right. And
Right.
it's
So,
funny. It's heartbreaking, and it's I mean, it's reassuring and it's empowering, but it's also heartbreaking and traumatizing for me, because it's like about every 10 years I can tell you what happens 10 years from now, and no one can fucking see it.
yeah.
And it's like if I had money, I'd be making a lot of it, because I see the stock trends and everything. It's like
Yeah.
augmented reality contact lenses are right around the corner, folks. I've
They're
known that for
trying. Yeah.
20 years. You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
it's weird how it works, and you can see the
I will
play of it
not be
all.
joining the metaverse. I will not.
Yeah,
I
it's a
am not.
double-edged sword.
It's the matrix in the
It's
matrix in the
yeah, it's
matrix.
fine. It's like it again, though, none of it's real, right? Like
Yeah.
every reality is virtual. So it's kind of like, it's just gonna be like the internet 2.0 or Facebook 2.0. Like, are there problems with the internet? Yeah, there are problems with Facebook. Yeah, but aren't they fucking useful? You know what I mean? It's like, I can see both sides of
Yeah.
everything, obviously, but
It's like anything.
specifically
What
technology.
It's intention. What is your intention to use this tool? Here's a tool.
But even
What is your
intention,
intention?
like, the technology is reaching a point where it's becoming so powerful that it's even negating and rendering obsolete any personal motive. Like, not yet, right? But like, if it comes to it, where the singularity happens and we have an AI overlord type of thing, it might be the case that it revokes the ability of
Yeah.
Zuckerberg and Gates
Yeah.
and Trump to even influence it or have a say or try to sell or try to dominate. It might be
Yeah.
so beyond us that it actually works because it's
Maybe if,
not person. It depends, right?
yeah.
If there's still a human person pushing a
Or a
button,
human that designed the
yeah.
artificial
If it has
intelligence.
a kill switch, but that's the thing. The reason I'm confident and optimistic about this is because people aren't that fucking clever.
Mm.
And so the technology is already outpacing them, and they haven't even
Hmm.
noticed yet. So, for example, if you research certain conspiracy theories, you'll realize that one version of the story was that there was a window of opportunity where the so-called global elite could have hijacked or shut down the internet, and they didn't.
Mm.
It got away from them, and now they're fucked.
Yeah.
Now they already lost. Now there's anonymous and everything that comes after it, and
I believe
that's
that
what's going to write
there's
history.
infrastructures being built that they will not be able to control for sure.
Yeah.
Decentralization is key. The
Mm-hmm.
centralization, the blockchain,
Mm-hmm.
crypto and all of that
Yeah.
is a way for individual expression to come forward and individuals to have some autonomy, or apparent individuals. Um, since we're all divine, I believe in decentralization down to the one, individual liberty, individual rights, individual
Yeah,
freedom,
absolutely. Which is the
because
same thing as saying no rules, anarchy, which is great. in a way.
You can say anarchy as long as everybody agrees that everybody's divine.
Yeah, yeah,
Otherwise, it's just
it's true
monk
too.
chimpanzees ripping each other
Right,
apart,
right.
right?
Hmm.
It gets very ugly. Anarchy in a non-aware state
Right.
is terror, and the
Yeah,
strong will rise to the top and take control.
yeah.
In an enlightenment society, you don't need those restrictions because you're not even restricting yourself, is because you don't behave this way because you know
Is
everybody's divine.
is that an oxymoron? Enlightened society.
It is a little bit. If the society believes there are a bunch of separate individuals, it cannot be enlightened, right?
That's the thing. When people talk about Shambhala, when they talk about an enlightened society, a golden age, it's like, I mean, I know the precession of the equinox is valid, the Platonic year, the 26,000 year cycle. I get that. We're in the ascending Dwapara, age of energy, etc. But it just seems like the nature of the dream is delusion and forgetting. Like the nature of the dream is the nature of creation is ignorance. And so it makes me wonder, like, would, if everybody was enlightened,
Mhm.
could there even be a world? Like, could there even be a society?
Yeah, I see where you're going. What nobody would do. There would be nobody there to do anything.
Like, I can
If
see
they're
how there
fully-
could be, you know what I mean? Like, there could
bunch of
be,
guys sitting around.
yeah, like you could have a planet of animals, right?
Yeah.
But I don't know, you could have, I don't think you could call it civilization, because
No.
civilization itself, and there's two perspectives on this, because I come from many different traditions, and like, from a Freemasonic perspective, civilization is a wonderful thing. But
Mhm.
from a shamanic perspective, or
Yeah.
a older than Sogchen perspective, you realize that civilization is an unnatural delusion, and they're both
It's
right.
a it's a construct, right? Society is a mental construct. Here's our society. We
Yeah,
got these rules, and this is how we behave. So it's learned, programmed patterns of behavior. And I don't necessarily think we need to all be enlightened. I don't know if that's the goal, but just awareness. Just
that's
be
true.
aware, right?
As
You
long
don't
as
have,
that's dictating the culture, I see what you're saying. So,
right?
like
Just
from a shamanic perspective, the way it works is the shaman writes the culture for the village, but doesn't live in
yes,
it.
right.
Isn't
And
the
he
alpha
lets
male,
them
lets the
know
alpha
that,
male be the alpha male, but is utterly detached from society, even though
yeah,
it invented that culture.
yeah, right.
So as long as we have, Plato talked about it in terms of guardians,
Mhm.
but as long as the stewards of civilization are in the awakened state, then yeah, that would be differently structured. But those that tend to rise to the top of hierarchies, there's no desperate urge to rise to the head of a hierarchy if you're in the awakened state. If you're
Absolutely.
if you're a competitive ego, that's the only thing you're about naturally. So it's a paradox.
It is. And it's also a good barometer because you can see who those that want power should not be
Yeah,
given power.
exactly right. I just said that again today.
Yeah.
I was just talking about that. That's one of the qualities of a leader, is that they don't want to be the leader more than anybody
Yeah.
else.
George Washington, after winning the war, they wanted to make him a king. And he said,
Right.
did you guys not learn from what we just went
We
through?
just
I
won
don't
a
want to
war
be a
against them.
king.
Yeah,
Let's
exactly.
set up a structure where there could never be a king,
Right.
right? Because
Exactly.
we're all equal in the eyes of the Lord. We're all,
Right.
I mean, the Bill of Rights and the Constitution, the way I read them, the original, is a divinely inspired document,
Yeah.
not because there's something special about Americans or America, but because they were acknowledging a God
Hmm.
given divine right.
A
So if you take
Freemasonic perspective, even, it's right
it
on the back of
is,
the dollar bill.
it's
E
all there.
pluribus unum, out of many, one.
Yeah, it
And
is.
that means many things. It means that we're secretly all one, but it also means that we're trying to enact a one world government, not in a bad way, in a good way,
Yeah.
a fair one world democracy, essentially. Even though there's no choice, even though there's no such thing as fairness, etc. Even though there's no such thing as human rights, ultimately, However, yes, there's all of nature, even though it seems to compete, it's secretly cooperative. And human beings aren't quite as cooperative as that. So,
But even in nature, it's a matter of scale.
right.
But bacteria look like they're fighting each other,
That's
but then
true.
they're also
Yeah.
working together.
Right.
And the bird eats the worm, or the bee gets in the pollen, and you're like, they're working together, but they're also not. So there's
Right.
that paradox is woven in. And one of my experiences, it shows that paradox is down to each atomic level. Every atom has that same polarity.
Oh yeah.
It's a magnet, right?
Infinitely
Everything's
in both
basically a
directions.
magnet and has a pole.
Right.
And it's one thing with a positive and negative. We say positive and negative, but it could be
Or
north
up or
and south,
down, or
black and white, red and white, whatever. But it's built into everything. And you can never slice a magnet to where it doesn't have both poles, right? You could never separate the positive and negative from an atom, just like you could never separate that from yourself. One of the things that was truly shocking with me is when I realized the true self, and I felt, oh, God's there. I also saw where the devil was.
Yeah. I like to call myself
Immediately,
the God Devil Man.
instantly, I'm like, if that's this, then what's that? Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
the devil's in my head.
People always do that. They say, I'm a God man. I'm a God realized man. I always like to say, I'm the God Devil Man.
You got to have both
Because
polarities.
God and devil are not two as well.
They're not two. It is not two, right? And
like
that's
we even talk about it in ways it's like, yes, the awareness is secretly enjoying even the suffering. Like, well, that's the devil. Like on a certain level, it's like what character in any fictional story have you ever heard of that secretly enjoys all suffering everywhere? The devil.
mhm,
It's like, not that it's bad, it's just that's why I said that non-human emotion I spoke of, I call it Lucifer's heartbreak,
yeah,
because it's realized I'm God, I'm devil, I'm man, and it's all inseparable. It's
it's all
it's
within.
all my nature, my being,
Yep,
and it's all there.
it's all there.
Or the way I
All
like
the
to put it is,
hells,
I'll say, your nature is everything that happens in the jungle.
absolutely
Everything that happens in the
everything.
jungle.
All the good, the bad, the ugly, the whole thing.
Even the shitty humans that are doing shitty things in the jungle. That too.
That's you. That's it.
The nature of
Yeah,
nature, the essence of essence.
yeah. The polarity only hurts if you think it should be otherwise,
Yeah.
right? The paradox only hurts if you think it should be a different way.
Right.
You want to argue with God and say it should be a different way, knock yourself out. I ain't doing it. I'm
Yeah.
going to say, yep, it is what it is, and I'm good with it.
And the moment you start arguing with God, there's two.
There's
And
two.
it's
Who are you talking
glorious that
to?
it can seem to be two.
Who are you talking to?
So even you being angry at God because you're unfairly enslaved by this hellish mate, even that's beautiful, because then there seems to be two in that moment.
Yeah,
Just like it's
yeah,
beautiful when you get stabbed 47 times in a dark alleyway and bleed to. Yes, but at least there was somebody there with me.
yeah.
Rather than nothing alone.
Right? It was better than nothing. Yeah, yeah. The nothing is really not so good, but it's everything. Yeah, contrast.
Yeah.
So contrast and pressure, and it's what this place is. Appears to be. Appears to be.
Thank God.
Yeah, thank God. It is God. God wouldn't have done it if he didn't want to.
Yeah, God
Because
thinks itself. Yeah.
yeah,
It's not
like
it's
I
not
tell
just
people,
saying how do you do that. It's thankful that it did it to itself. It's like a promise. It's like a trust thing, right?
yeah,
It's like you're going to forget, and it's going to be painful, and but nothing's ever going to hurt you. And yeah, it goes back to what we were saying before of like, there wouldn't be a heaven and earth and a hell. It's like it would never
And
go that
forever.
far. Yeah, forever. Yeah,
Forever.
So funny.
But I'm going to get 80 years here, and that's going to determine forever.
Yeah, the way I used to put it, I say, even Hitler doesn't deserve forever.
Forever.
I think the first billion years you get the point,
Goes
like,
against
forever?
physics. Goes against any
Goes against
rational
everything.
thought.
And that's actually the darkest human thought that has ever occurred. Was whoever invented the idea of hell.
Forever, right? Not a purgatory, but a hell forever. That's a new creation. That's
the
not.
ultimate manipulation tool.
Yep.
That when you die, you're going to go to a place that's so bad forever.
Mhm.
Like, it's the ultimate manipulation tool. So now, what are you willing to do to escape this imaginary story I've told you? Well, anything.
How do you think the Catholic Church became so wealthy?
Yeah, fear. Guilt, shame, embarrassment,
all
repression.
Yeah.
Neurosis, trauma, violence.
All of it. In the name of God, some external dualistic guy in the sky.
I've heard so many crazy theories about what the Catholic Church has been up to that I can't think of a more evil organization that's ever been.
The current Pope is really something.
One of the stories I heard was pretty crazy. It was like, the story went something like, Jesus and Mary Magdalene did have a lineage. They were well known and protected by the secret societies. And then in about the 1500s, the Vatican slaughtered all remaining. It's like, wow. It's like, if that's true and they knew that was the case, and then it's just further proof. Like, I've heard so many things that, like, I know at least half of them are true. If one of them are true, it's like, my God, like, how do you? It's so crazy. It's a testament to the tenacity of the ego mind, because you take the words of Jesus, who is saying the same thing we are here now, and then they literally flip it upside down. It's not even just the ego; it's the ego magnified.
Yeah,
crazy.
It is. Yeah, and it's a death cult as well.
Yeah,
because you're
exactly
living now, and when you die in death, you will get your rewards or your punishments.
So unnatural. Yeah.
That's a death cult, as far as I'm concerned. The rewards are then. And
the way my dad put it once, my dad was an atheist. Well, still is, but he's kind of somewhere between atheist and Buddhist, in his beliefs. My mom's kind of like a just agnostic, non-denominational Christian type. But I remember my dad said something when he said, if there is a devil, he lives at the Vatican.
Yeah, right. It's
where else would he live? It's like, yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, the big opulent place full of gold.
Yeah,
with the private guards around it.
Yeah, it's just Rome.
I've been to Vatican City. It's a weird place.
Of the Beautiful. Same Roman tendencies.
Yeah, for sure.
I always thought it was funny that the largest statue at the Vatican is a big pine cone.
And I think we know what that stands for. And there's a lot of, the center square looks like a giant Shiva lingam, and there's that pattern all over the world.
Yeah.
I believe the ancient Vedic culture was much more widespread than we're led to believe. And
I believe the original Indo-European language is Old Sanskrit. Like, absolutely. I feel like they just overlooked it. Like, I feel like there was a one world global civilization of extremely advanced technology. It's so obvious. Like, there was an article in Forbes from 1984, and it was basically going on and on about how computer programming engineers realized that of all the languages that have ever been that we are aware of, Sanskrit is perfectly structured to be the most logically efficient and advanced structure for computer programming and for processing logic and meaning in general. Like, it's so advanced that it doesn't make sense. It's like,
We've de-evolved from that point.
yeah,
We have
and
this
it's that
arrogance that we're
cycle that we talked
progressing.
about. Yeah, exactly. It's funny, you see it in Buddhism too. You see them say things like, well, there used to be 10,000 names for Buddha, then there were 1,000, then there were 100, now there's 10. It's like
Yeah.
you can see the intellectual or mental capacity decline. Or another one would be in
Right.
Egypt. You see the very first pharaoh lived for 6,000 years,
Yeah.
and you're like, wait, what?
Yeah.
And the second
And,
pharaoh lived for a little less and a little less and less. You see it in the Bible. Adam lived for 1,000 years and a
yeah.
little less, little less, little less. There really was a
And
flood.
there really
There
was
really
the
was
flood.
a global catastrophe in the what was it, 11,800 years ago? An asteroid
Younger,
hit,
younger
yeah,
Dryas
Younger
event,
Dryas, yeah, exactly.
and the
You
mud
know,
floods and
and
all that.
supposedly that hit northern Canada and created 1,000-foot tidal wave that
Yep.
fucking washed all evidence clean. The only thing remaining is, like, I don't know, the pyramids. And what
Yep.
are, what are the pyramids? It's the way I describe the pyramids is like if you're driving down an old country road and you see only the cement foundation of what used to be a basement,
Yeah.
and you go, oh
You'd go,
fuck,
what the heck is this?
there used to be a house there, and now I
Yeah.
don't know why the basement foundation's still there, but okay, that's all the pyramids are. It's just
Yeah.
that foundation,
Yeah. And
and
they knew stuff
just
that
that's impressive. It's like,
it
whoa.
is. Yeah. And the technologies that they used and the knowledge that they expressed in the geometry is not something that you can typically obtain terrestrially.
Exactly. It was the ratio
Of
it
the
was the
earth
ratio of the
and
distance and the diameters of the sun, earth, and moon.
yep, circumference of the earth,
Yeah.
all of it. The speed of light is expressed.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that one.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
that's not coincidence. Those things
It's
are
so advanced that
so advanced.
it's like, I feel like that's one of the secrets of Freemasonry is twofold. It's either time travel straight up,
Mhm.
or a little more believably this grand cycle and remembering and forgetting, or both potentially, but it's
Or both.
definitely at least one of them, and possibly both. Um, but if you ask someone who really knows about the history of all this stuff, and you ask a Freemason, how long has Freemasonry been around? They'll always say, since time immemorial. In other words, since before recorded, written, remembered history, because that's
Before
what this
Solomon,
is.
I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah,
Solomon's Temple and
right.
Hiram Biff,
Mm,
is that it? Yeah, the
yeah,
original architect. And they were leaning on knowledge gained well before them,
yeah,
before written. This information did not just instantly manifest, it was
right.
there.
And a
And
lot
we,
of it is like the secret currents of forgotten or
mhm,
groups of people that were written out of history, like the Druids. The
yep,
Romans destroyed all evidence and
mhm,
rememberings of the history or culture of the Druids, yet a very small trickle of that still survives in things like Freemasonry.
yeah,
And you can see that a lot with the Romans trying to rewrite history and trying to obfuscate what actually happened and things.
yep.
It just shows
Still
you.
happening today.
Yeah, exactly. That's I like to call America New Rome. It's like I
It
love and I
is.
hate this country because
Yep.
what I love about it is its Freemasonic underpinnings originally, but what I hate about it is that it's just Rome all over again. And Rome
And we're
fell.
repeating the same ills and the
Mhm.
same reasons why they failed.
The devaluation of currency due to overextending war
Yeah.
efforts, etc.
Yep.
Yeah.
And once the people realize they can vote money out of the treasury and give themselves money out of the treasury, that's what they do. And you got over 50% of the public not paying taxes and the other part supporting them. And you
Yeah.
all these segregation and separation based on silly things like skin color and
Mhm.
who you like to have sex with. It's a bunch of nonsense.
Yeah.
Did you pick your skin? Did you pick your preferences? Did you pick any of
Right.
this? Why would you judge somebody based on their skin? It's the most superficial inconsequential
It's
thing you
fucked
could.
up too. It's like, if you go to London, that
Yeah.
racial tension isn't there, and there's no like crime divide or poverty divide,
Hmm.
But I think people forget in this country there was slavery here.
Yeah.
It's not like you just gave these newly freed slaves what they still were starting out with nothing. And it's like anywhere like crime only exists because of poverty, because of perceived lack. So if you systematically deprive a certain group of people of resources, and
Yep.
then you wonder why the crime rate, it has nothing to do with genetics, it has nothing to do
No,
with the color of your skin or your natural tendencies genetically. This is entirely uh, the social situation that was unnaturally created here. So like, oh, well, there's more crime in those communities. Yeah, well, you deprived them of resources and they were led to desperation. What'd you expect? That has nothing to do with their genetics. What are you talking about?
absolutely. I mean,
It's not
there's
like
a
they're
lot of
more violent or
statistics.
crime driven. No, it's just you systematically denied them of opportunity. Like, what else would you expect? You go anywhere in the
Absolutely.
world where there's poverty, and you're gonna
There's
see more crime.
violence.
There are
Doesn't matter.
areas of the world where there isn't poverty, and when you go there, guess what? There isn't crime.
Yep.
It has nothing to do with what color people are or who they're fucking.
Doesn't matter. And like in the Black community in America, in the 30s, 40s, and 50s, the nuclear family, that more mothers and fathers and kids were in a single household than in white families. Divorce was more prevalent in white families at that time, and they were very strong in their religions and in Christianity. And that was systematically broken apart with intention.
Mm.
And the introduction of welfare and saying, we'll take care of you, but you can't have a man in the house and nobody can have a job,
Oh wow.
right? So that's where welfare came from, but there's requirements. So all of a sudden it became economically viable to not get married, have kids out of wedlock, and the government will take care of us. What an ultimate
Mm.
trap. What a horrible thing to
Yeah.
do to a group of people. And that's what government does.
Yeah, you can see the CIA behind it all. It's like people are like, oh,
Oh,
well, the Crips and the Bloods are at each other. It's like, do you realize where those come from? That used to
yeah,
be the Black Panthers. They
yeah,
split up the Black Panthers into Crips and Bloods to have the Black Panthers kill each other.
yeah,
Like, how fucking dark is that? Like, wow.
yeah,
When you realize little things like that along the way, you're like,
yeah,
geez, like, what do you expect? You created this system. Then
yeah,
you're wondering why it's the way you created it to be? Like, come on.
yeah. And just everywhere
Sad.
you see in that is just an example of ego and duality, right? Wherever you see people trying to control others and subjugate others and,
The whole
you
conquer and
know,
divide thing,
conquer and divide thing.
they get everybody to go to war with each other instead of realizing that your common enemy is the people that are, the
Yeah.
state.
Those that have a monopoly on violence must be watched carefully. Um, yeah, I think we're living in very exciting times because we're going to see some systems come apart
We're
and
gonna
some
see
new systems
revolution.
come.
It's already
We're going
here.
to. It is. The war's started.
Yes.
It's information. It's mind control and thought control at this point.
Hmm.
But the war started, and to me, the vast majority of this is a non-physical experience. The
Yeah.
polarities are pulling to such an extreme to where there's going to be a reaction. That energy has to be let go, and nature wants to find stasis. And right now we've got a lot of energy pulled in the rubber band,
Yeah.
and
You let go. Yeah.
it's gonna be something, I tell you,
Yeah, for
because we
sure.
got a lot of energy to burn off, and it's going to be destructive for this system, and something new will grow in it. I would like to be a part of whatever grows, being conscious and
Yeah.
aware versus survival in Mad Max,
Yeah.
type survival mode. You
Fear-based, do
know,
whatever the Nazis say next mode
yeah,
versus, yeah. And
I'm not
there's,
playing that.
and it's not like I'm, having said all that, it's like I do feel like you know, it's almost like I want to say something along the lines of like the government and I have an understanding. It's like, you know what I mean? Like I'm not afraid of. I'm not a direct threat to them. They're not a direct threat to me. However, this system is going to replace itself with the next, and it's up to us to guide the ship. You know,
I agree.
the way Obama put it is he said, "This is a really big boat, and I can only change the course of it 3 degrees to the left or the right, and I'm just trying to make sure it's headed in the right direction."
Yeah.
You know, we're just trying to play our part, and when it's realized that the individual ain't shit, in other words, like the power of an individual to change the world is very little, like really, like it's never an individual that does anything. So when you realize that it's really group dynamics that allow true change or true power, you can see a cooperative spirit of revolutionary vibration, you know.
Yeah.
And I feel like everyone's ready for it. I feel like it was already right on the brink when COVID hit. Like
Yeah.
I don't think they meant it to go this way. Like they were up to something, but then it went just sideways enough that they fucked themselves out of maintaining this little play they keep putting on of theater and false flag bullshit.
Yeah.
And they accidentally took one step too far, got a little sloppy, and now everyone sees everything. Like everyone's ready for everything to be radically different. Like all of civilization is going to be radically altered. Like even the idea of living in a house, something as simple as that,
Mhm.
you have way more people like, you know, maybe I should get an RV and drive across the country. Maybe I should drive to another country in my RV. Maybe I should live very different. Maybe I should question, you know, this is really opening my eyes,
Everything.
this COVID thing. Maybe I should live entirely differently.
Yeah.
Fuck it, let's start a commune level of it's like it's almost like a
Yeah.
what was started in the 60s and didn't come to full fruition. Some remnant of that is gaining rebirth in this.
Absolutely.
And just like the way the Vietnam War triggered that, COVID is triggering this, even though it's a little more subtle. I mean, it's still similar. It's still death, fear, miscommunication, misunderstanding.
And I think as a society, because we've been so materialistic and it's become such a grind, like the rat race.
Exactly.
And
Everyone's
then when you
already
stop it for a while, you're
everyone's
like,
ready to quit their job and quit
yeah,
their
this
life. And they're like, you
sucks.
know, I don't know if it's worth it to keep living this way. And it's like, well, no, it's really not.
Yeah. Well, then you
Eh,
get a chance to sit for a minute and not be in that mode, right? In
right,
the go, go,
right,
go, grind, grind, grind.
right.
You're
Like, oh,
like,
this is
oh,
not that
whoa.
bad. Yeah.
You know, why was I killing myself? I could die at any
Right,
time, and I'm
right.
grinding to, for what? And
Yeah.
why is our society so damn expensive? What the heck is
Right.
going on?
Why? Maybe I should grow
Mhm.
my own food. It might be. Yeah. It's like you see how
Literally.
this. You see how it works though. Like every little thing is trickling into itself. It's like even recently in my own personal story, it's like I've been such a hermit, homebody, digital nomad all along,
Yeah.
and now everyone's kind of leaning in that direction. So it opens up opportunities for me personally because I was already looking for that specific thing, and so there's
Yeah.
a silver lining there. And also, you know, Zoom is more popular. Who doesn't
Hmm.
have Zoom download? Okay, well now they're more likely to get on a talk with me then, so
Yeah.
on and so forth. And like I had been doing these talks, and now I'm doing them for donations and stuff as well. So I do have a
Mhm.
little bit of money coming in from it, a little bit, just to help me cover the expenses and everything. But I also do web design,
Mhm.
and these are two things where I don't have a boss, you know, and I'm like, this is
Yeah.
nice. But then recently I was like, you know, I got to try to get a day job. And then it was like a really horrific day job
Mm.
that was going to be like only dealing with angry customers all day long, full blast 24/7. And the interview went perfectly. I dazzled the shit out of them and they still
Mm.
turned me down. I thought, oh,
Mm.
good.
Thank God.
Oh, good. I didn't get the job. Woo, I was close.
Thank God.
It was like, wow, that's a weird. Wait a minute, what?
Yeah.
Like it's so different now, you know. It's like, oh, good, because I kind of wanted to struggle and do my own thing and not be pressured by it.
Yeah.
Weird. I'm grateful I didn't get the job. It's so
Yeah.
strange. Like, there's no reason I didn't get the job. There's no. I was overqualified. The interview went, but they still acted like it didn't. And I thought, good. You know,
Yeah.
I didn't want to fucking do that shit anyway.
That is synchronicity.
Yeah,
The machine elves jumping up and helping out for a moment,
yeah,
right?
exactly.
They're everywhere. Yeah. Yeah, I'm still going through that process as well. Mine will be a little tough to give up because I've gotten used to a certain level of income. So, um, and I got a wife and kid, and there's
That's
some
the big thing.
complications there.
Yeah, the wife and kids, the big thing. For me, I had yeah, when I was working the hardest, I had like a family unit, and now I'm living differently. Like I'm on great terms with everybody and everything. It's just
Yeah,
I no longer have a felt sense of pressure, or you know what I
yeah,
mean? So that's a luxury in itself, even though I'm basically penniless. It's a
yeah,
luxury that I can be on my own and be penniless and
yeah.
not have
It's a
to.
little different taking care of
No,
yourself
no,
and
yeah, it's
yeah,
very different. It's the ultimate motivator, It's but it can really hurt you too if you let it burn you out, and if you neglect yourself
hmm,
in the pursuit of doing that. If you give more to the rest of your immediate family than you do to yourself, and a lot of guys are prone to doing that, especially obviously it's worse in the seeking mentality because they don't have that level of self-love and acceptance. But even after, um, there's a fine line. You got to be careful that you don't give away more than you're giving yourself, type of deal.
can't give what you don't have.
Yeah, a lot of
Right?
guys have this martyrdom complex. Even I
Yeah.
had it, and it's gotta be careful. It's a slippery slope. If you start neglecting yourself, it can get bad.
That that is part of what got me to my breaking point.
Mhm.
And it's a little late now, but maybe another time we can go over some of those.
Yeah,
The
for sure.
specifics don't really matter. The story of me doesn't really matter, but it ties in with that, and
Yeah,
it's suffering to me is a tremendous tool
yeah,
and a very, very important alignment tool. And,
for sure.
the more we
Like you said, it's
suffer,
that contrast. You can't have the relief without that. I
right.
always Sometimes I talk about awakening kind of like really having to pee for
Yeah.
like hours, and then you get to.
Yeah.
It's like, well, wouldn't it be better to never have to pee? It's like, yeah, but you would never feel the relief of
Yeah.
finally getting to. In the same way
Yes.
that, oh, it's better to never have suffered. Yeah, but in a way, it's even better to have suffered tremendously to the point of almost
Tremendously.
blowing your brains out and then suddenly not suffering at all for the rest of your natural life. That's quite
Yeah.
remarkable. That's quite worth talking about, that contrast. And
Yeah.
that's why people like us just can't shut up, because it's such a remarkable
It
contrast,
is.
you know?
It is. Yeah. And I find myself with around typical people trying not like, oh, yeah, don't, because if you're not ready for that, you're not wanting that, you know,
That's the beauty of
it,
the internet.
it,
You can't
it's,
I can't think of anyone that I would bump into in physical reality that's ready to take the final step of this
yeah,
inquiry.
right. Right.
There's people
It's
that are
fair.
like, yeah, I get it. You're okay. It's a thing. You're nobody. Huh? It's like,
Hmm.
yeah, but you don't. But the way this feels,
Yeah.
it's like people can kind of see it, right? They notice something is different about us. They're like,
Yeah.
oh, you're a little more stable and non-reactive. You're doing all right. You are okay. You're okay, huh?
Hmm.
It's like, hmm, well, you're very clear-minded today.
I
I
am
haven't seen
not
you in a while.
afraid.
It's like, yeah, I'm not afraid of anything. Yeah.
Yeah. And people, that some bothers some people.
Well, it terrifies most people because if you're
Yeah.
not afraid, they get terrified by that.
Like you should be afraid, don't you
Because
know?
who's not afraid?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I think our society that's doing the fear mongering is even saying like be on the lookout for anyone that's not afraid. And
Absolutely.
remember, be afraid at all times. Make sure you're afraid enough.
And if you find
What?
somebody not afraid, please report them to us so we
Yeah.
can
Report
deal with
the
that.
fearless to the authorities immediately so we can make them afraid. Oh, they'll
Yeah.
be afraid by the end of it. It's like, jeez.
Nah, you can take my body, you can take
Yeah.
this whole thing. I don't care.
It's like Lazarus laughed. Lazarus just laughed in
Yeah,
the emperor's face. Like, go ahead, bud. Rip my teeth
whatever.
out. Whatever. And that's
Whatever.
what people always try to do it to me. Like, oh, nothing matters. Huh? Oh, you're beyond suffering, huh? So if I abduct you and rip your teeth, I'm like, yeah, I know. You're not the first person today. Go ahead. It's fine.
Yeah.
Either way is fine. You want to waste your time and resources? I'm willing to die. Go ahead.
Yeah.
I'll beg, I'll plead, I'll scream, but I want you to know something. You didn't get to me.
Yeah. What is real
You might
cannot
not
be
ever
touched.
know that. There's no proof, but I'll know. That's plenty.
Yeah. And that's why it can't be said, right? It can't be told. That's like I see these people saying, I can teach you how to do this. And it's like, you can teach people how to do what?
Unless you're literally going to induce that state, then no.
No.
And is it possible some people have a method and they have a good track record doing that? Sure. I personally know a few, but it's not a guarantee.
But ultimately the person has to go through that, right? It's not the guru doing something to them. And
Yeah, like you have to
ultimately
be ready for it.
that last step is a very private internal, and I don't even know what triggers it because I didn't even try, right? I wasn't working to do this.
Yeah.
So for me, it was completely
It always
out of the
is.
blue,
Yeah.
right?
I mean, I was waiting for it. I was looking for it, but I still didn't expect it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was running late. I was like, all right, where the fuck is it? I deserved this 3 years ago. Like, I was the cockiness of the ego. And then part of it was like, this might not ever happen. But again, the whole time I knew it would happen sometime in this lifetime. But I thought I'd be older, I thought I'd be 49 or much older than that even.
Yeah.
But part of me always knew I would die when I was 27, and part of me always knew I wouldn't. And so that kind of makes sense because it happened at 27. I'm like, yeah, 27 club, and I'm still alive, and I'm not alive, and I'm not dead, and I'm not undead. Yeah, makes sense.
There we go. It's all good. It's exactly the way it's supposed to be because it is.
It's just further proof that it's scripted. It's like
it is.
I've had multiple people who are in the awakened state. Well, not multiple. I've had a couple people, me and a couple other people, who have had like glimpses of the future.
Mm-hmm.
And then it happens, like, and it's such a thing that there's no way you could have. It's so off the beaten path. There's no way it was your subconscious mind filling in data points. There's no fucking way. You know what I mean?
I agree. We
But
have
it's all
access to
scripted.
that.
Like somebody the other day, they said, "Oh, well, destiny," and they probably expected me to shut them down and be like, "No," but I'm like, "Yeah, fair enough." Like,
I mean,
kind of like I can't really argue
destiny,
with it.
fate,
It is
scripted, karma.
Yeah.
I mean, there's one doer, there's one mind.
Exactly.
So who's doing what now when? It all falls apart.
it's written by nobody from our perspective.
Yeah.
Because that nobody isn't a separate somebody. And yet it is the ground of being itself orchestrating this. But even that's not a choice. Like I call it the leaky Tao. The universe just kind of leaks out of the Tao. It's like even what we refer to as God's creation, even it is just an overflowing, a spontaneous, wild happening based on your nature. That is to say, the nature of reality, the ultimate nature of reality. Your very nature is such that universes just kind of slip out of your awareness and slip out of your imagination.
Yeah.
And so you are bound by your own perfection. And even as God, there's no choice. Even God doesn't plan because there's only infinite, perfect, complete awareness. So it's bound by that. This world, so sometimes I'll speak in a very heartbroken way from God's perspective, and I'll tell people, I'll say, this couldn't have been any other way. Like, I promise.
Ben.
It's the only way you could have had a real world. And this is the way it's done. I'm sorry, but I'm not. It's the only way it could have been
any
done.
other way.
People always say, well, if I was God, I would have done that. Yeah, but once you get to that layer, you wouldn't change a fucking thing.
But he already did all those other things in parallel. There's parallel dimensions and worlds where maybe those scenarios did take place because you can think it probably happened. Right. And if you think it should be this, and this, it's probably tried, it collapsed and fell apart. And then we tried this, and then we tried that. And when every variable, every permutation.
And all of that was all prototyping within the imagination of the inventor who never actually did it. And then when it actually creates the universe, even though that too isn't real, it finally does it, right? after prototyping it infinitely for an infinite series of eons, it finally pretends to create one. And I call it Universe 1.0. In other words, once it's finally infinitely prototyped, it never needs to be prototyped again. And so it starts totally
Kind of like
perfect, and everything
kind of
is
like
perfect every
Tesla
time.
seeing the whole electric motor,
Exactly. Yeah.
and then it's just there,
Yeah.
right? Seeing
Exactly.
it full and complete.
So I call it Universe
Yeah.
1.0. That's all there'll
Yeah.
ever need to be.
Yeah. I like that.
There's something about your
Yeah.
smile that reminds me of Yogiraj Sadhanath, which you might
Oh
know,
yeah.
the Kriya
I do
Yogi
know.
guy. Oh, okay. Got a Kriya yogi vibe. I don't know why
Yeah.
it reminds me of him. But he's funny too, because he looks like the textbook depiction of like God, or like, it's like if he's got a white beard and white. I mean, you can tell he's
Yeah.
kind of trying to look that way too. You
Yeah.
know, it's like I always thought it was funny though. Yeah, it's something about your smile. It reminds me of him. I don't know why, but yeah,
Oh,
the Kriya Yogi
I'm
guy.
sure that's a good
He
thing,
claims
right?
to have met Babaji himself, type of
Oh
deal,
yeah.
type of guy. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's a good thing. It's a compliment.
Good. Good. I'm trying to be, it's weird because since this has happened, I used to be very serious and intense. Like I brought a lot of energy with me.
Yeah,
And now I'm realizing that's just, it's not necessary, and I'm more
right,
relaxed, and it's caught people off guard, and I
right,
feel lighter
right.
and freer. And
Yeah,
yeah, it's all good. It's a progress, or it's a process, and I know where my battle is, and it's internal, and I'm not
yeah,
trying. It's not a battle. I know where the ignorance comes from, and I know when I slip into ignorance, I feel bad. So it's super simple. My chest
right,
is tight, I feel bad, and I'm in my mind. And then I would sit
right.
and watch it, and I go, And now most of the time, I just don't pay it attention, and life is a
And
lot better.
yeah, definitely the seriousness thing is a big deal, because it's
It's ego,
on a certain level upon awakening, yeah, seriousness gets sucked out, right? Like
right?
it's not taken seriously. Like that's why some people burst out laughing upon awakening.
Yeah,
But even after awakening, that remaining 10% trauma can be healed and dissolved in different ways. I know that was one of the ones that's like particularly valuable, is like you don't have to take this too seriously. It's like
don't.
this is all form of play, you know.
Yeah,
It's all lila, the play of
yeah.
relationship, the play of juxtaposing contrast. And yeah, this is in the Tao Te Ching, the way they put it is they say, whose child is this?
Right.
They're talking about the god, the child at play, you know, the
Hmm.
the lila of Shiva playing hide and seek, peekaboo. They say, whose child is this? In Zen, they say, "Show me the face you had before your parents were born." But in the Tao Te Ching says, "Whose child is this?" Because it's known
Hmm.
this is exactly like a child at play, just on a cosmic level. And the way I like to put it is like we're like action figures, you know.
Hmm.
People say, "What do you mean there's nobody here? What do you mean there's no door?" I'm like, "Okay, you and I are action figures of the Lord. Is it clear?" And they're like, "Oh shit, it is now.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. Oh wow, okay." We say, "Yeah, yeah, nobody in there." And okay, yeah. It's like
Yeah.
what would happen if there's a child who's safe at home, playing in their room? Well, there's two GI Joes murdering each other, attempting to kill each other. Like one's a bad guy, one's a good guy. It's like, okay, you gotta start to see how the world works then. Like it's just a little bit more complex than that. Not a whole lot more, just a
A
little bit
lot of
more complex.
kabuki theater,
Yeah,
right?
a
It's a
lot of
lot of
shamanic masks with fangs and bright colors. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Well, it's getting late where you are.
Yeah, I just realized how long we've been on the phone. Holy shit.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah,
I know time always flies by in these talks, but even
it
it flew
does.
by twice as fast as normal, even. So
Yeah,
that's a good sign.
it's enjoyable.
Very enjoyable.
I
We'll have to do it
appreciate your
again.
time. Yeah,
Appreciate yours. We'll have to,
yeah,
yeah, we'll definitely, we'll have to have more talks and stuff. And I can also if you want to start doing this more and have your own channel and your own website and stuff, I could definitely help you connect the dots on that and get you set up with that too.
I appreciate that. I'm open to whatever's going to come to the surface. So I don't
Yeah.
know what vehicle that will take or
Right.
what method,
Exactly.
but I'm very open and aware for synchronicities to happen and bring forth,
Right.
I'm just a tool.
Hmm.
And if there's value, or if somebody, I feel compelled. And when
Yeah.
I feel compelled, I don't know why. I don't know. I don't have an end
And
goal. I don't know.
that's the way Bentino Massaro put it, you say that's God's desire. Like
Yes.
your desire is God's desire. So when you listen to it, when it's not, yeah, I mean, anything that we naturally feel driven to do, especially on a deeper, less contrived level, and you can tell the difference,
Yeah.
it's just like a nudge or a wink from the divine trying to urge itself in a certain direction.
It's
And
not coming through in English. Like
right.
I hear thinking and talking in my head. I know what that is. It's my mind. When
Exactly.
I get something down
That's
lower
right.
that's really,
That's
it's
right.
not defined,
Gut.
but it's there. And I feel
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
pretty, very strongly lately in particular. And of course, the ego mind jumps in and goes, "Who the hell are you to tell anybody anything?" And I'm like, "Exactly right. I'm nobody to tell anybody nothing."
That's why.
That's it.
That's why you're worthy of
Exactly.
the position.
Right.
You're hesitant to lead, so you're the leader,
I
type of
don't want
thing.
to
Yeah,
leave.
exactly. That's the thing,
Yeah.
right? I was just talking about that. That's one of the things I do is like leadership coaching and things, and it's
Hmm.
the guy who least wants to be head of the thing is the guy that needs to be the head of the thing, because that's
Krishnamurti.
how it works.
Yeah. Remember Krishnamurti, Judah Krishnamurti? They wanted to,
And you turn down the world teacher position.
he
Yeah,
was going to be the new incarnate, the new avatar. They're going to
yeah,
worship him like a god. And he goes, if you think that, you don't get it.
that's
Right?
right.
If you think I'm something separate from you and there's something special about this and not that,
Hmm.
you don't get it. And if I play along with that, it means I don't get it. Right? So, I mean, he walked away from godhood and attained godhood.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah. You have to, if you want everything, you first have to lose everything.
Wanting what? Who wants
The
what?
eye of the
Right?
needle. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
I mean, yeah, I think that's critically important. The
It's so
ego is
funny.
so
It's
tricky.
hilarious because it's like all the things the ego wants and thinks would satisfy it won't, and it won't get those things.
Nope.
And yet, upon awakening, you're more suited to attract those things effortlessly
And you
now
don't
that
need
you
them.
don't
Don't.
desperately need them.
Yeah. Don't want it. Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's hilarious. It's a
Yeah.
paradox. It's
It is a
beautiful.
paradox and it is tied together. But, got to be careful. The mind, I still feel my mind is
Yeah,
very present. And
for sure.
if I don't stay, like I don't have a practice, but now I'm feeling the need for a practice to
Mm,
go further,
yeah,
not because of enlightenment, but just because I want to strengthen my connection with source.
yeah.
I want to be less conditioned
Because it
and
feels good.
more
Like
feels good.
that's the thing. Usually when we talk about the advanced layers of post awakening practice and things, we'll say things like, by now you've probably realized that emptiness is neither your friend or your enemy.
It's
It's
what
not
I am.
something you're avoiding, but you know what I mean though. But like part
Yeah.
of you, part of anybody, like it would be insane to run away from emptiness, but it would also be insane to run toward it.
Mhm.
It's like, and yet the only reason you would is because you've already, how good this state feels. So it's like, even though there's no desperate urge, there's still a deepening of the savoring of it. But again, it's not needed. Like, however you can best enjoy is all that is appropriate. So people that, you know, people in the unawakened state, okay, I'm enjoying that ignorance through them. And those are in the awakened state, okay, I'm enjoying that clarity through them.
Yep.
And those that awaken and try to cling to that remaining 10%, that's beautiful. And those that awaken and run toward emptiness, toward that 0%, that's beautiful. I'm somewhere in between, you know.
Yeah.
I
We all
appreciate
are.
both of those directions.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And if we're it's the differentiating and judging and saying this is that and that is that, and you're at this stage and I'm at that stage, and you're getting wrapped up back in the Maya,
Yeah.
right?
The way they usually put it in Zen or wherever, they would say, if you're deeply awakened, that's all you'll see.
Yeah.
There are no seekers.
There are no secrets.
Like, there are no sages. There is no world. But there's definitely no seekers. There's definitely no ego mind, you know. No separate beings, even though that's, which is funny because it seems like the world's dominated by the reality of the ego mind. But I do like to differentiate and define and discern ego as a felt sense of separation. So it's the
Imagined.
feeling tone of the energy of that confusion.
It is imagined. It's not separate.
It's like, on the one hand, I want to say there are no levels, it's all equally imaginary. Yet on the other hand, it's like the ego is particularly delusional. Like, yes, I know there's no world and there's no body, but there's really no ego mind.
Yeah. I mean, from a rock to, you know, from a very dense to not. And there is a difference, but it's still within the same totality of the one, right? It, again, back to the contrast. If you didn't have the contrast of severe ego ignorance and darkness, you wouldn't have the light, you wouldn't have the love, you wouldn't have all this, all the other experiences and everything in between.
Yeah, without hate in the world in sufficient quantity, there is no unconditional love of a sage. There's no such thing, because there's no juxtaposition. People always do that. They try to ask the hard question. Well, why is there so much of X, Y, or Z in the world? Like, yeah, because you wanted enough of its opposite too, right? Like, you wanted there to be enough love here to make it worth your while, right? Well, that's why there's hate, and hate even is a form of love. Like, the opposite of love isn't hate. The opposite of every feeling is apathy.
The opposite of every feeling is apathy.
Not feeling. Yeah.
Not feeling. Yeah. The opposite of feeling is not feeling.
Like, the opposite of anger isn't being peacefully calm and serene. The opposite of anger is not feeling anything. The opposite of love is not feeling anything. The opposite of sadness is not feeling.
Yes.
Etc.
Right.
The opposite of a positive thought is not a negative thought. It's not thinking.
Right. Thoughts are thoughts, whether they're positive or negative. It's a
positive
thing.
Thoughts are negative thoughts, and negative thoughts are positive thoughts. Good Buddhists are bad Buddhists, and bad Buddhists are good Buddhists.
Good and bad is a subjective, right, belief system.
I wrote the other day, I said, it's easy to get the wrong idea.
Yes.
Somebody said, oh, wrong, huh? Right and wrong. What's that? I said, that's bait.
That's bait.
It's always bait. I said, it's the only thing the mind knows is bait.
Yeah. It loves its bait.
But I got you a comment.
Shiny things. Yeah. Little distractions.
Yeah, the world is a shiny bauble.
It is. And thank God, right?
Yeah.
There's a reason. It's not evil or bad.
Right.
Unless you believe it is. Then whatever you believe it is, that's what it'll be. And that's what it'll give you.
It should be obvious, but it's not.
We're projecting it, and
people
it's coming back.
They don't notice it, you know. And it's like, it's so funny to me because the of all the sages I've ever read of, I think Jesus did the best job about talking about projection.
Yep.
Like, it's so
Judge
obvious.
not lest ye be judged.
Yeah, and I've known that all along, right? Like, ever since I was little, I knew. I mean, little. I knew that Jesus was talking about the fact that we're all one, and that I am you, and so why would I treat you any differently than as if I'm you? And so that's what Jesus was saying, and I always lived my life that way, and it helps, right? It helps you lean into that unconditional Buddhic love, but upon awakening, it just happens. You don't have to think about it. It's just there,
Yeah.
It's no longer something you think you're doing and having to remember and align with. It's just, this is your permanent default now.
Yeah.
This is what's happening.
Yeah. Working. Well, so I'm working on it. I see it for what it is.
Yeah.
And, I know there isn't really a doing, right?
There's not a what?
There's not a doing. There's not something to do.
Yeah.
And there's yeah. It's very and yet I know that I'm still conditioned and affected. Like I can see it. Like, but because I can see
Yeah.
it, am I still conditioned and affected?
Yeah, exactly. It's like,
right?
if you
I,
realize that you can't fully undo cultural conditioning, are
mhm.
you done?
Yeah, right, right.
Everything is done. Everything is an already completed masterpiece.
Yeah,
And it's the type of masterpiece that never can ruin itself. It's
yeah.
like a painting where like you do one brush stroke, oh fuck, I ruined it. Oh my god, it was perfect. Then oh no, oh my god. It's not like that. It's just
No.
perpetually always a masterpiece that can't be underdone or overdone. And we're just being used. We're just pawns in this grand game. And yeah, it's beautiful. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
I definitely urge
Yeah.
you to lean into that gut feeling of the desire to share this, the desire to connect with people, and the desire to let it take whatever form it wants to take. Let it expand into whatever platform it wants to expand into. And you don't, not that you need my validation or anything, but I do think it's worth talking about, just because, yeah, the people like us, yeah, you can just quietly go about your day job and never speak to this, but I think you're right. I think, especially with the timing of it all, and with modern technology and the way the world is headed, I think, and I think you already know this, but it's, it's a very interesting time, like you said, where everything's primed for the world is ready for a radical shift. So of course the individuals are,
Absolutely. And I feel that very powerfully.
the micro macro thing going on there.
Yeah, above and below. I mean, I know if I win the battle within, the world's going to change, right? And if I
Yeah,
get this sorted, if
right.
I'm living from that space and I'm expressing from that space and I'm being here and now and the world will manifest in front of me the way it's supposed to. It's so
Yeah,
I'm just
your
trying to,
world will change.
the
That's the
whole
thing.
world will
The way I
change.
look at it is like, it should show us something that upon awakening, the entire world is suddenly seen differently and didn't
Yeah.
need to change.
Yeah.
So you don't need to change. The world doesn't need to change. Yet there's still that reflection projection going on, no matter what state we're in, and that's beautiful because, I mean, that can be viewed in a cosmic way, but it can also be viewed in a very down to earth way too. It's like, yes, of course, how I view and see and feel about the world will change how it views, sees, and interacts with me. The way I expect energetically from someone or from a group,
Yeah.
that if I walk into a room a certain way, expecting to be treated a certain way, I will be. It's
Yeah.
just hard to use that chaos magic successfully in a way. How do you actually convince yourself of something? That's the thing. It's like, you can play with belief.
Hmm.
That's what chaos magic is in the back of your mind at all times. Like, yeah, all belief is bullshit. I don't believe
Yeah.
any of this, but you can play with it in the same way that we play with characters when we go to work and we put on a
You
certain
can
hat.
focus your imagination and generate a nice concoction, a nice vision, and project that onto the world and manifest that. I believe that.
Yeah.
But who's manifesting that? Well, God is through you.
Yeah.
And sure, it's using a belief to a certain degree, but it's really your attention, your intention and your attention. Can you focus that on a vision in your head, and then all of a sudden this vision becomes a reality?
Like in
And
my
that's
own
part of the
experience, this has
secret and
been
all that.
yeah, this has been the most fulfilling thing I've ever done, is just having these talks to people.
Yeah.
been a prolific singer songwriter, and like
Yeah.
that's like a crutch for the ego to
Yeah.
feel, and it's great, it's fine, but or
Yeah.
like I was doing web design and stuff, and it's like, yeah, I got really good at it. It's it pays decently, and it's I did it for a decade, so I got pretty good. And it's always nice to create something,
Yeah.
because you're the creator.
Yeah.
So anytime you're creating anything, you're gonna feel more aligned and resonant, regardless of what it is.
Yeah.
So I'm a singer songwriter. I make websites, and they feel good, but really this sharing, like if I created many modalities of expression for these talks and for networking seekers and sages and this content for the world and things, um, those are the only days that I seem to have effortless time management, effortless managerial prowess, effortless expertise. Like it's the only day of the week. Like if I do it like I did today, or I do a full day and night of these talks, it's like I don't have to try to work hard.
Right.
It's just
It's without effort.
so enjoyable, and I'm
Yeah.
so wired for it. And it feels like every moment of my entire life led to this.
Yeah.
And yet I never knew I would be doing this.
Yeah.
And that's just the nature of it. So I definitely, yeah, I see more and more people coming out of the woodwork when they
Yeah.
and I've inspired some people to create their own channels, so which is really cool.
Mhm.
It's like we forget what kind of impact we have.
Sure.
Like, oh, I'm just gonna do this little thing and just for my own fun, and this will be pretty cool, and this will be valuable for some people, and it gets bigger than you expect. Like
Mhm.
it's easier than you think it is. It's all
Yeah.
gonna flow as effortlessly as this conversation did.
Absolutely.
Zero preparation, just winging
Yeah.
it. It's
Yeah.
gonna go super smooth, and I think it's gonna be great. I look forward to that.
It's gonna manifest for sure. And I've been working on some stuff, writing, organizing thoughts. I think I will probably do some scripted type things. And then if somebody wants to talk, I'll talk to anybody. I don't care.
Yeah.
But I may do some scripted type videos, and who knows? We'll see. I
Yeah.
think it's important to know there's just more and more and more of that people are not alone. People feel very alone right
Right.
now,
Right.
and separation is an illusion. And if we can get to that, we can get to, people are motivated to feel connected. You
Right.
want to feel connected? Here we go. This is
Yeah.
the ultimate
Exactly.
connection with your
Exactly.
true self. The ultimate connection is with yourself,
Yeah. Exactly.
So
And
yeah,
you're
I'm
the
excited.
only one in the world that can put it in your way.
Right.
So those that would resonate with your message, they're not going to get that anywhere else. Like I've realized that the more I go into this, it's like the more I speak on these things, I get more
Yeah.
and more feedback, and I also see it. But I don't know why it surprised me, but other people see it too. They're like, someone needed to say it that way. That's what
Yes.
we needed. It's like, yeah, I see it that way too. I'm glad you said that, because I see certain dry spots in the community where certain things aren't expressed in a certain way. I'm like, I need to express that because I don't see anyone else saying it that way, and
There'll be a group of people that resonate with that, and a
exactly,
group of people that resonate with something different. And
exactly.
you know,
Like no matter
um,
who you are, you have an audience. You have
there's a bunch of
a
knuckleheads out there
fan
that'll like
base.
that.
Yeah, I
There'll be
mean,
people that'll like that.
there's a girl on Instagram, and all she does is pictures of her tits and ass, and she's got tens of
Yeah,
millions of followers,
it just is
and that's
amazing.
fine. You know what I mean? And it's like, so you know what I mean? Like, there's always an audience gonna resonate with you,
Yeah.
which is specific.
Hmm.
Like everybody has a demographic for their message, and in today's world with iPhones and YouTubes,
Yeah, you can reach that demographic.
it's just you. It's all you. You invented the
Yeah.
iPhone. You invented YouTube. You are the iPhone. You are
Yeah.
YouTube.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, I've really enjoyed it, and I'm
Me too.
looking forward to
I'm
doing
a
more.
little shocked how long we talked, because
Yeah.
I did not
But
realize. I thought it was 2 hours earlier than it is. That's great.
yeah. Yeah, that means it's good.
It's crazy.
When time goes away,
Particularly potent. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I've really enjoyed it, and we'll
Me too.
definitely talk again. And
Absolutely.
yeah, I'm gonna put a little more energy behind making something, putting some action behind the thought.
Yeah, that'd be
You know,
cool. Yeah. I'm
yeah,
excited to see where it all leads. It's
yeah.
always
You never
great.
know.
Yeah, you never do. You'll be
You
pleasantly
never know.
surprised. That's all I know.
Yeah, and I have zero expectation or zero
That's
vision,
why it's gonna
so
work
it
out.
could never go wrong because I
Yeah,
don't have a
exactly.
plan.
It can only go right. Yeah. Whatever happens next is perfect. So how
Yeah,
could it go wrong? Yeah, exactly.
exactly.
Beautiful.
All right. All right. Well, again, I appreciate your time. I've enjoyed it
Appreciate you.
and look forward to doing it again.
Me too, man.
All right.
See
All
you
right.
later.
We'll talk to you soon.
Sounds good.
All right. Bye bye.